right, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday show. My name is James Chen, and I am joined by none other than the illustrious Mr. Ultra David. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you believe the difference between our hair now and our hair in that intro?
Every time I watch that intro,
It's remarkable.
all I can see is how short my hair is, and I'm thinking to myself, it would be nice to be able to get that again.
Not anytime soon. All right, everybody, welcome to the Tuesday show. We have some stuff to talk about this week. Definitely some things happened. The Street Fighter V summer update happened, and now we know more about their future plans. We also know more about Granblue Fantasy Versus' future plans.
Yes.
Pretty cool. But we will talk about some tournament results. Some stuff happened over the past weekend. More of it will be coming this coming weekend. We'll chat about both of those things. We have some fun 5-5 matchup questions, I would say, this week. There's some cool stuff in the viewer-voted options that we'll get to. And then there's some other game community news, of course. What? You want to begin with the Street Fighter V summer update?
Yeah, obviously that was the big news of the week for Street Fighter. And so we actually got to find out a lot more about what's going to happen with Street Fighter V, how long it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, this summer update stream that they had was more all-encompassing than I had expected. You know, we talked last week about what we did expect would come, right? Because last show was Tuesday, and then they revealed this on Wednesday morning, so we were like, what are we going to see tomorrow? You know, I had said that I thought maybe there'd be a couple of characters. I didn't expect them to announce 4, and I super didn't expect them to talk about plans upcoming until 2022.
Right.
I mean, this is a far, far roadmap.
Yes.
And, you know, even before we get to the news, let's just chat about the structure that they put it in, right? So this stream that they started, within, you know, a minute or 2 minutes, they were already like, here's the character, and then here's the other character. It was just like left and right? Very, very fast. Here's Kenny Omega. Here's Jeremy and Steve to talk about SFL. Here's another character. It was bam, bam, bam. It was like very efficient. And what I have been told, I've never watched, but what I've been told is that this is similar to how they do Monster Hunter news.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of same sort of format. You know, the format is not dissimilar from the kind of stuff that Nintendo does. Although even they are often not as just like, here's the info, fast, info, fast, right? Like sometimes they'll take little sort of brief interludes, and sometimes they'll spend a little bit more time like, here's what this game is about. Sometimes Sakura and Smash ones will like spend half an hour on Terry's outfits and the background characters, right? But this was just like very fast news. What'd you think about that?
I'm cool with it.
Okay.
I definitely thought that was fine. Not a lot of random fluff and just getting all the information that we want directly and quickly. And so I think that's fine. But yeah, you're right. It was interesting because they just came on. They're like, all right, hi, we know what you want. Here's our first character.
Right, dude. It was super quick.
And,
but yeah, I like it. I'm down with it for sure.
I mean, it sounds like just the way that you're describing it, that you actually, you know, prefer it this way. I know, you know, there's just not a lot of reason to add a lot of fluff because, you know, people are there just to get the news, the information. And I felt like they did a good job giving that to us. Like you said, it was just wham, bam, here's a character, here's a character, here's a character. I also like hearing them talk about things like, oh, we decided to put this character in because this, you'll be interested to see how this works kind of thing. Like, you know, with the first character, you know, spoilers on the title screen, it's Dan. But like, they're just like, you know, it'll be really interesting to see how Dan's taunts work within his combat. You know, like the fact that they just kind of threw that out there right away. And not only that, and it's funny too, because I saw a tweet about this and it's so accurate. But you mentioned that their plans go all the way into 2022.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh my God, look what we have to actually play this till 2022. And, you know, like, but everybody else is always like, nah, take your time if it means the content is going to be good, you know, or like, we just want to know what's coming up. And look, you got both of those things.
Definitely, yeah.
So I don't know.
Personally, I'm really happy with it. It was the fact that it was under 20 minutes. I thought they would, I don't know what I expected. An hour, right? Longer than, it was like 18 minutes. It was pretty fast. I didn't expect it to be that fast. So I like that a lot. Yeah, I'm definitely down with just getting the information. In this context, if there's a different situation, say we are in a physical, offline, big tournament sort of setting, like, Evo would have been, then I think it's much cooler to have this kind of like build up, and then just all of it comes out right at sort of a release. I think that's very fun. And what they have tried to do in the past is that didn't quite work out. But, think back to Evo of a year ago when they announced Poison and Honda and Lucia. If their plans had all worked out, would have been very cool. And when they have done it in the past, when other developers in the past have done that, I think that's great. So I love that kind of stuff in certain contexts. Build up, taking a while. In this, though, we're just like sitting in our pajamas at, well, for me, 10 in the morning, just hang. I mean, just let me know, right? Like, I don't need the whole sort of build up in this kind of situation. So I was very happy that they did that. I think that made a lot of sense for me.
Shout outs to Pahil Punch here for the 53-month in a row subscription to Ultra
Wow,
Chen
hot
TV.
dang. And thanks to El Zilcho for the sub as well earlier. So I was very happy with it.
I'll also tell you this though, like,
yeah.
I was definitely in my pajamas, still lying in bed. I pulled out
Was it nighttime for you?
Yeah, but no, I actually did fall asleep. I tweeted beforehand. I was like, should I just stay up until 10 to watch this thing? But I think went to sleep at like 7 or 8 or something, and then woke up 2 hours later, slid my laptop over, opened it up, started running and looked at it from my bed, and then after it was done, I closed it and went back to sleep.
Jeez.
Well, man.
All right. I had breakfast and fed the cats and all, anyway.
You probably had a lot of your day already taken care of.
I'd been up for a couple hours, yeah, no doubt. So I was very happy with it. You want to talk about the news?
Well, I want to talk about the hype train that we just got. Thank you for the sub. Crispy loves you. Appreciate that very much. For the production quality, he says. I don't know what they're talking about, dude. All we're doing is just pointing a camera at us, right? So...
That's the gig. Thanks for the sub. All right. So they announced that Dan is coming back. That was the first character that they announced.
Anyways, yeah.
Do these in order, more or less, here. So they brought up Dan first. Dan's the only character that they have gameplay of yet. So they mentioned Dan, and even before they mentioned Dan, they were like something about the Psycho Master comes back. And, of course, if you're a Street Fighter fan, you know instantly what that means, and so they mentioned Dan. My initial reaction, and I put up a video with this, so I'm not making this up. My initial reaction was very mixed. I was excited because, of course, I actually did main Dan during part of Street Fighter 4's life. From probably Super through AE 2012, pretty good couple of years there. I mained Dan. He was my guy. And so I had a good time playing him. He was a fun character for me. But at the same time, I know he's not actually that unique, at least in his Street Fighter 4 iteration.
Right.
He's kind of like a slightly worse version of a couple of other characters. He didn't actually suck. He was better than people thought that he was, but he was also not great. So he was like a slightly worse version of a few other characters. And what I've mentioned every time we've talked about which characters are coming up in this, final 5 characters that are coming out, is that I want unique characters. Right. I want interesting options. I want options that aren't already in the game. I want something new, right? And in my mind, Street Fighter 4 Dan is not that. So that was my initial sort of reaction, a little bit mixed. What about you?
I thought they were trolling at first.
Did you really?
When they were like, Psycho style, and I was like, oh, okay, they're trolling. Then I started seeing footage, and I was like, wait, this is way too elaborate to be a troll. Like, I really thought that they were just gonna, be like, it's Psycho style, Dan. Haha, just kidding. But it turned out that it was actually true. So there we go. We had footage of him. But I guess one of the things that I did like, though, is I just liked seeing how the how he started playing out a little bit, you know, with the footage, how he can seem like he can taunt cancel everything.
Yeah.
The only concern that I have is that, you know, I kind of said this, if you were going to bring back returning characters for the 5th season, I felt like since it's the end, you got to bring back some like fan favorites. Like you just got to bring back the ones that people love so much, or like I said, go with something completely out of left field, you know, like I was suggesting stuff like Eagle, or, you know, Lee from Street Fighter 1, or, you know, a Julie tag team kind of thing. Like I had been suggesting like completely out of the left field stuff, or like I said, bring in fan favorites. I don't think Dan really kind of qualifies as either one of those. Well, clearly he's out of left field, but he is somebody that we've had before, we've played before. He was in 4. I don't think anybody was really pushing for Dan or anything like that. So to me, it's one of those, like, for me as a fan of the game and seeing the footage, I was like, okay, he looks kind of interesting. But I can see why a lot of people might be upset with this decision, because I saw plenty of people who were hoping for the Viper, hoping for the Able, hoping for, you know, Makoto, you know, just being like, Dan? Really?
And again, even me, the Dan player, one of 5 Dan players in the world. I don't know how many, right? But as far as how many people actually entered a tournament competition with Dan, it's not 10. I mean, it's fewer than that for sure. It's very, I mean, literally, can you imagine it's 10 people who ever played in a tournament seriously with Dan? No.
I can name 4 people.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I'm aware of maybe 5 or 6.
Right.
And I grant that I'm not aware of everybody, but I'm not aware of, there's not double that, for sure. So, anyway, he's definitely not a fan favorite among people who are tournament players. I do think that there's more of an interest in Dan when it comes to casual play. So I think that's something that may exist, but still, it's not going to be as much as for other popular characters. Makoto, Viper, right? Those will definitely have more fans, not just among tournament play, but also among casual players.
It's Max's fault, man. In fact, he's coming here. He's come to the chat to try to explain himself, because it's his fault that.
Oh, I was just saying, actually, Max, who says Dan isn't for the esports crowd. That's why it's impactful that he returned. Yeah, that's my feeling as well. Is that he is more of a fan favorite among people who are casual players. I still don't think that he's as much of a fan favorite as some of the characters who are also tournament fan favorites. But certainly, there exists more of a fan base for him among casual players. So, look, I don't know. It's not what I expected. Even though I was a Dan player, I was a little mixed about it. But, like you were saying, once we found out a little bit more about how he played, or at least had glimpses of that, I was more excited. I was definitely more excited. I like the idea of these taunt cancels. So, you know, you got to think that the taunt that they were showing is probably a V skill. There's a chance it's a special move, but, you know, I would guess it's a V skill. And that seemed like it was cancelable out of everything. Normals and specials. And specials at least at a couple of different windows.
Right.
Right?
It just seems like you can cancel them anytime you feel like it, in a weird way.
It did seem like that. Yeah. And if that's true, that could create a lot of interesting stuff. You know, it just depends on how it turns out. But there is that potential there for actually unique gameplay. And I was excited to see that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, can you imagine being able to cancel the uppercut into taunt on block at different timings, so that after they block your uppercut, like, it's kind of like how when Soul does the uppercut, he can still do the little wheel kick at the end of that, which changes his landing timing, which messes up your punish sometimes, you know? So he could uppercut all the way up and then taunt and drop, or uppercut, taunt right away, or uppercut roll, and all of them are probably punishable, but you would just have to have a different timing on them all. And
that could be pretty sick.
The question right now that I have, really honestly, is where are they going to go with him? Because obviously Dan is the joke character, right? He's supposed to suck. That's the nature of Dan. And the thing is, I hate having that slot wasted. you know, having a character who's not actually supposed to be good, who's supposed to be bad. Sean in Third Strike, Dan in all these other games. As you mentioned, in 4, he wasn't terrible, but that's also because in Ultra, Combo Fiend kind of found sneaky ways to buff him without having, you know, people realize that made him kind of better. You know, he had to work at that to try to make Dan a little more viable under the radar. So, the question is Dan going to be viable in this game? Now, like I said, I hate having the slot wasted. At the same time, there's 45 characters in the game.
Right.
We've already talked about how we feel like that's too much. If he sucks and he's not legit, I don't know if I'm ever actually even going to be mad.
That's actually a great point. Yeah, if effectively there could be 44 characters from a competitive tournament player perspective rather than 45, I'm not too opposed to that. Yeah.
Right.
I wanted there to be 40.
Yeah, I know.
I actually didn't want these extra 5 characters. So yeah, from a tournament player perspective, I could see that. But really, I don't want him to suck. I mean, honestly speaking, I would rather him be a good character, be legit. He still is a silly character. You can see in his animations that he's a silly character, and I think that's great. They should definitely play up his personality, and if they're leaning extra hard into that by way of making his taunts actually gameplay important, more important than they were in SF4, that would be good, right? That highlights the personality of the character without making him actually suck. And I'll tell you, after having reviewed that footage quite a few times, I think there's some stuff in there that seems really strong.
Yeah.
I really do. The fact that his back throw lands him right next to the opponent, the closest of anybody in the game, that's very strong. The fact that he gets a knockdown into immediate pressure out of that rush punch special, if you do the taunt cancel, that seems very strong. This ability to taunt cancel at anything seems like he could just be whiff punishing into V-meter constantly, right? Like maybe he does a whiff punish with stand strong or whatever button, and maybe he doesn't get anything too credible in a knockdown there, or maybe, but maybe he doesn't, and he at least cancels into the taunt and gets a little bit of V-meter, right? So like he's building V-meter all the time because he's taunting all the time. I think these could be interesting gameplay mechanics. So I'm curious. I think it's kind of cool. I would like it to be the case. I'm very curious about what his V-trigger would be. I don't think there's anything that like leaps out to me as far as what would be his V-trigger. Certainly not like with some of the other characters that they announced.
Right.
So I don't know. For me, there's a lot that's up in the air about him, and I didn't need it to be Dan, but it's Dan. And, okay, cool. I don't know.
I mean,
fine.
I'll say this much. I mean, on the back throw thing, I feel like they did not show it with a quick rise. It could be one of those situations where the instant he slams you on the ground, the guy can quick rise like almost instantaneously.
But he's right there, right?
Right.
I mean,
but the question is he minus or plus? If the quick rise is fast enough so that off of his back throw he's -1 or -2, I think that would be so Dan. Like I would actually think that would be funny if he back threw you and you quick rose and you were actually plus.
That would suck.
That would feel very Dan to me. But you know, that's the point, right? If they can make him so that he's not like awful, like don't make him Third Strike, Sean, please. Like that was such a waste of a slot. But if they can make it so he has like weird little faults like that, like if I back throw you and then you quick rise, I'm minus and it's your turn kind of thing, like if that's kind of the way they do it, but still he's viable in a very Street Fighter 5-y way, I think that would be fine. I think that would work great. You know, he doesn't have to be wonderful, but as long as he's viable enough so that you know somebody's going to become a Dan specialist, especially because he's the first one coming out, so we'll have plenty of time for a Dan specialist to get crafted. If Dan comes out and someone becomes a specialist and can actually do damage at a tournament, you know, we've seen, like I said, I mean, in past seasons, we've seen Doomsnake do super well with an actually bad Vega who's not bad anymore. But, you know, if we can see that kind of stuff, I think that would be hilarious.
Max says that characters cost too much to make nowadays for them to be flat out unplayable. That actually might be right. Yeah, there's like a financial investment in actually making the characters legit. Maybe.
I mean, the sprite work is actually more expensive, but to Max's point, they just use the same damn sprites game after game after game after game, so much to the point that Morrigan was a freaking meme at that. You know, so that's why you saw the same sprite over and over and over again. So people are always like, why can't they make a new Street Fighter game with sprites? And there's the reason. Because once you make those sprites, you use them for the next 10 years.
They literally did that. So, anything else to say about Dan himself right now?
Nothing comes immediately to mind, no.
Let's talk about Rose, who was the next character that they announced. Rose. Yeah. I think this one made sense. By the way, during the little intro, I did not realize that there was a Rose in the background. And even when Kenny Omega, who was doing the presenting right then, was like, look in the background. There's a hint about which character this is right here. And I like scanned it, and I just had no idea. Like, I look, there's DeCapra, I see her, I see Viper, I see like Oni or whatever it was, and I just completely missed that there was a Rose, not Rose, a Rose. I just completely missed it. And he like took up the Rose, and I was like, oh, okay.
I feel like Sherry Jennings is going to try to drop kick Kenny Omega now because Viper was in the background. He was like, there's a hint. And then he's like, oh, look at these characters, and then tosses them to the side.
Yeah, those were Viper and DeCapra. It was just like, get out of here.
No, I mean, honestly, I don't think the Rose was visible. I think Kenny, he's a freaking troll, right?
No, I went back and watched it, and it was visible.
Oh, it was? Okay.
I went back to see afterwards.
That's funny. But, I mean, look, Rose is one of those characters that I've always thought has such an interesting lore, interesting backstory. She's a fortune teller, all this stuff like that. And what we got as a character in the fighting sense is probably the most uninspired, like, boring character that you could possibly come up with, right? What do I have? I have a fireball. I have an air throw uppercut. I have this thing that goes shawl charge. This fireball reflect, and I have this shawl. Hey, I have a forward moving special move attack. Whee! I've always thought that they could do a lot more with Rose. I just felt like they were
pretty unique at the time in Street Fighter Alpha. I feel like in '96 or whatever, that was probably pretty unusual.
The most interesting about her was that her fireball at point blank pushed you a full screen away. Like, that was probably the most interesting thing, is that her fireball had this wind property that would push you a full screen away. But outside of that, like, she was just completely boring and uninspired. And so, they've said that, they're considering putting the tarot cards into her gameplay somehow. If they just change her and make her completely different, like, and actually interesting, I think that would be awesome. I think it would be really cool if they could actually make her interesting, finally.
Wow. That's very strong words. That I absolutely agree with.
Yes.
That I could not agree with more. To me, she is extremely boring. One of the least interesting characters in the Street Fighter series, in terms of gameplay, anyway.
Yes.
But whatever, I feel like a lot of characters are boring that other people really enjoy. So it's not my desire to see characters that other people like be completely, I don't know, turned into totally different characters, because they have some conception in their mind that they liked. And even if I thought it was not interesting, they liked it, and okay, that's fine, right? I mean, I'm not opposed to it being something that they can identify with. However, it does seem to me like they're planning to change things up substantially, because they have more or less talked about it, right? There's a blog post on PlayStation where they, in so many words, kind of say that she's going to be different, right? She's not going to be the same character this time. So I think that could be cool, and it would make sense because there are already reflects in SF5. There are already absorbs in SF5. There are already like safe offensive single-hitting moves, right? In SF5, these things are not that unique already in the SF5 context. So I would like her to be unique because of that. Again, that said, there are Rose fans out there, and if she gets changed a lot, my heart goes out to them. But it seems like they are going to change her a lot. I feel for Luffy, kind of. I mean, the other Rose players, right? He's not the only one, but he has been tweeting and retweeting how he's just like so happy that Rose is back, and that he can't wait to play her in these certain matchups, and he has this idea in his mind about what Rose is. And I think he's going to be pretty disappointed about that. I mean, he might end up playing her anyway, but there's no way at all to call what her matchups will be. She's not going to be the same character, even if they do make her similar.
You're right. I mean,
there's going to be differences, right? Every single character has had differences compared to their previous iterations, and some have been big differences. So you can't really talk about that kind of idea.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, for example, like all of her stuff is, I mean, Minot's already in the game. She has the same damn uppercut already, right? She's already got
right, that uppercut thing,
yeah. Her orbs are going to be better than Soul Satellite, right? Like, I mean, you're going to really bring in back Soul Satellite kind of thing. It's funny, before the announcements came out, Luffy was talking about how excited he was about Rose. And I actually tweeted back at Luffy, I was like, she might not come out the same. I was like, she'll probably end up being a very different character. So, I wouldn't be like, I actually kind of warned him about that a little bit. And
well, good luck.
Yeah.
I would say, though, at least there are people who like characters because of gameplay.
Right. But here's the thing.
And there are people who like characters because of other reasons.
Yeah.
And Luffy is the guy who likes characters because of
other reasons.
Right. So he'll be fine.
One reason or two reasons?
He didn't pick Rose. Yeah, you might say two reasons.
Yeah.
He'll pick Rose because when he picked Rose the first time, it had nothing to do with her gameplay. And when he picked Mika in SF5, it had nothing to do with her gameplay, right? He's got these other ulterior motives involved. Yes. So he'll play her, I guess. Now, it just doesn't seem like she's going to be the same kind of character gameplay-wise.
Some people were mentioning in the chat Poison, who is very different than she was in Street Fighter 4. She kept like one special move, the Love Me Tender, but God, is she so much more interesting in 5? Holy crap. Like,
not even close. Much better.
If they could pull that off, like make a poisonish kind of Rose so that she's like a completely different thing, look, let's go. Even if she had like magic shawl, like crazy things where she can hit you from full screen and stuff like that, like, let's go. If they can make Rose interesting, like I said, I would be so happy.
It would be cool. You gotta think the odds-on favorite even still is that Soul Satellite will be one of the V-triggers.
Yeah.
It may be different in some way, but it seems like a pretty safe bet, I feel.
Yeah. I'll say this about SF4 Poison. She's just the worst, most boring design again as well, because guess what? I'm a Fireball uppercut character, and for no reason my Fireball is better than Guile's. It's just like, okay, ooh, what an awesome, unique character design for the character in Final Fight that flipped around the screen and was like fast and mobile. And, God, what a terrible design. God.
Yeah. Well, SF5 isn't really that fast mobile character either.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's at least she's interesting now.
I'm definitely with you on that. Yeah. So, Rose. We'll see. We don't know anything about her yet, other than she'll come out in spring 2021. We'll talk about the full roadmap at the end. Mm-hmm. The next character that they announced was Oro. Dude, this one caught me more off guard than the Dan. Because... people had sort of, it was an idea in all of our minds, right?
Yeah.
That Oro could be. It wasn't like nobody had mentioned that possibility. I just really didn't expect it. I just super did not expect it. That Oro would finally come back. He's been a character that's been in the storyline, and I figured that that's how they would keep him, because he's been in the storyline in SF5, and they just haven't put him in. So in my mind, I was like, well, he's going to be like Rashid's grandpa or whatever it is, or his trainer. Mm-hmm. And he'll be in the story, but like never see him in the game. And there he is, Oro in Street Fighter 5. And when they announced him, the first thing they showed was his turtle. And I actually on stream, my live reaction was like, they gave him a turtle head? I don't know why I thought that, but that was my initial like, whoa, there's a turtle.
Look, I'm sad right now. I forgot to bring my prop for the Oro announcement, but
oh no.
Look, you know me. Everybody knows me, right? I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the weirdos in Street Fighter V. So I've never been a fan of Oro or Necro or 12 or even Q. The only reason why I like Q so much is because I've learned to become very sympathetic towards him because of having so many conversations with you. But I'll tell you this right now. So I've always said that if they put Oro in the game, and I wasn't very surprised by him because I had truly believed that the tarot cards set that came out in Japan were going to indicate who the 5 characters were. And
okay, but then it was Dan, and so
right, and Dan blew that off. But Rose and Oro were part of that set, so my brain was already ready for Oro. In other words, is what I'm saying. So, but the thing about it is, like, I'm not a fan of Oro the character, but you know, much in kind of the same way that Nikali spits the barf, and I feel like that gave him so much more personality. If Oro actually fights with one hand holding the turtle the entire time and the other hand is fighting like this, that almost will make it as good as the suggestion that I want. Because I said if Oro makes in the game, there's one thing they have to do that would make me love Oro, which is to give him an extended turnaround animation where he would be standing like this and his turnaround animation would be like, you know, like tucking one arm in and then busting the other arm out, you know. Okay. Obviously, you could skip that turnaround animation, but if they just put that in there, that would have been hilarious. But now, if he's balancing a turtle at the same time, they kind of figured out a good way to make it so that he doesn't have to net. Like, I don't know if the turtle's just going to teleport between hands or something like that, but if he has a turnaround animation where he actually moves the turtle to the other side, I think that would be amazing.
I think the turtle thing is genius.
Yeah.
So the gimmick with Oro, if you don't know, in Street Fighter 3, was that he's such a strong fighter that he felt that he needed to handicap himself by tying one hand inside of his like pouch or whatever, right inside of his little I don't know, gross sack that he walks around in. And it's very funny. So all of his in-game actions are with only one hand, except when he does the EX versions of his super, and then he like takes both hands out, and it's like super serious time. And for those like very short periods of time, he's ridiculous, right? His SA3 juggle version is it's so strong. His the EX booger is like the biggest projectile in Street Fighter history. It's like most of the stage, right? So that's the idea of Oro. And then in SF5, right, like you were saying, how is that actually going to work? This idea to have him be juggling or be carrying a turtle constantly is such a funny and good way to actually make that happen. That by itself is already just a great sign that they're invested in the personality of the character and in the sort of lore of the character. So I already think that that's pretty cool. In that PlayStation blog, they mentioned that he's going to be carrying this turtle and that his attacks are based around him balancing with the turtle, right? He's protecting this little turtle constantly. So I think that that's super cool. I'm very interested in how they actually will make that work. To me, that is one of the most interesting things about the character.
Yes.
And on top of that, he has a bunch of different things that could be quite unique in the context of SF5. He has a double jump. Doesn't like, you know, poop out ice like Colleen's does. It's just a double jump, right? It's just a traditional double jump that gives him a funky little angle of attack. So I hope that that's back because that would be unique. His normals pretty unique. His juggle combos, I hope that kind of stuff was back. You know, as the game has gone on, they've become more comfortable with putting in characters who have significant juggles.
Yeah.
Right. So I would hope that he could have, you know, close medium punch launcher or something, or command normal back medium punch or whatever they would do with it, you know. I think that would be really, really cool to have back. That could be pretty unique. Those loops with the chicken, I think those could be really cool, right? That could be cool tech, cross-up stuff, cool setup stuff I think could be in there.
I mean,
air chicken I think could be pretty cool as a kind of unique option. So I think there's a lot of stuff that they could do with this character, even apart from his supers, which are definitely interesting. I think already there's a lot that they could do that could be unique.
I'm worried about the double jump. I'll be honest with you, because in Third Strike, having air mobility was kind of a necessity because of the parry. Because if your jump arc was very straightforward, it was very easy to parry your jump attacks, right? So they did a lot. Even characters like a Dudley, who have one jump arc, but his roundhouse just drops him and hits him right away, and heavy punch just whiffs above your head. Having a double jump, dive kick, these kind of things like that were kind of important. I feel like in Street Fighter V, if you just gave him a double jump as it is, he might be too powerful.
Just I don't know about too powerful, but it would be powerful.
It would be super good. I mean, there's a reason, in my opinion, that Colleen's double jump is as limited as it is, in my opinion. So I feel like they had to make it that limited, otherwise it would have been a little bit too nice to have to like double jump, bait out an EX uppercut, and then murder somebody, kind of situation. Yeah. So
sick.
They'd probably have to tone that down a little bit. Again, I'm kind of hoping for them to try to do some creative stuff, because I love what they did to Gil and Seth, right? Like, those characters are just amazing. And
the last 5 characters they've put out have all been cool.
Dude, super cool. As much as I hate fighting Honda, like, I actually like kind of how they did Honda, because he's Honda, but he's kind of different.
He is Honda, absolutely.
Yeah, but he's kind of different, which is actually really cool. And so I hope they can kind of do something like that with Oro. Like, don't make it just obvious, like V-trigger is automatically the junk flying around. Like, let's try.
It probably is.
That's going to be one V-trigger for sure.
Definitely Tengu Stones, which is SA3, Super R3, will be one of the V-triggers. I mean, in my mind, it's each of his supers will be a V-trigger. Right. And when he activates a V-trigger, he like puts the turtle on the ground, or else the turtle like gets a perch on his head or something like that, right? And then he has both hands, and he can like be extremely strong, and Tengu Stones are the little dinosaur and the brick and the cement concrete, whatever nonsense, right? Trash. That kind of thing floating around again.
Dude.
And then another V-trigger is that he has Yagyodama, the boogers, and what I think would be really cool is if they made it so that his V-triggers have the ability to be an EX version, right? So that you could maybe activate V-trigger and then activate V-trigger again, right? Or just press Fierce Roundhouse again, and now you're in like super V-trigger mode. Dude. And your Tengu Stones that in regular SA3 are just chip. When you do EX SA3, their launcher and the big juggle points on them. And it could be the same thing for his V-trigger here, and maybe for the other V-trigger for Yagyodama, you could have a couple uses of the sort of like floating booger, like Dalsim's V-trigger too, but you could also just like activate it big time and throw the world's biggest gigantic projectile that's 3/4 of the stage, right? I think it'd be so cool to have this kind of option for his V-triggers.
I was just about to say, I think it would be so awesome. What if he had a 3-bar V-trigger, a 3-bar V-gauge that could be activated at 2 bars?
I'm in. Yep.
What if you could just activate it at 2 bars? He's just unique that way. So, at 2 bars, or maybe they give him a 4-bar V-trigger, and he can be the person who could activate at 4 or 3 or something like that. I think that would actually be really sick.
That would be a super cool idea. Yeah, that would be unique. I'd be all for that. Definitely into that. By the way, shoutouts to Max for saying that one of the pieces of trash that will be floating around in Tengu Stones will be a copy of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Jerk.
I love Max, dude.
I know, you're on board. I know. But I do think that there's a lot of potential for Oro to be really interesting. I think there's a lot of potential for him to be unique in the context of this game. I think there's a lot of potential for him to be strong. And based on what we know about him carrying around this turtle, and the last 5 characters all looking and being cool, I'm actually pretty excited about Oro. I'm really excited to see how he looks, how they make him work. I think he could be really cool.
I just have one concern. I just have one question. Answer me this question, David. Do you think Capcom will have the balls to animate him properly.
No, no, they will not. No, I think we can sweep that idea right aside.
Okay. Because of 3D cameras, you know, probably not gonna happen.
What a classic pixel! I can't believe they actually did that.
You never know. That could just be the fingers of the other hand reaching down.
Now it's even grosser than it was before. Gosh, imagine that.
Man.
This 130-year-old man. Wow.
Oh, man. All right. Next character.
The next character and the last one that they actually revealed on this summer update was Akira Kazama.
This one was the loop of all loops, okay? If you're going to throw people for a loop, this was it. There was no way I believed there was ever going to be a rival schools character added to Street Fighter V. Like, if you told me that, I would have been like, yeah, you know what? Like, if that was one of the leaks that came out, like, let's say it leaked, I would look at that and be immediately like, well, Akira Kazama, well, clearly this is a fake.
Yeah, you just throw away that leaked list, right?
Yeah. But,
you know by seeing that character, okay, I don't have to take this seriously.
Dude,
There she is.
I'm excited by it because, you know me,
Yeah.
I've always, you know, been a really small, subtle fan of, you know, there's a place of rival schools in my heart, even though I didn't really play it all that much, but I love the concept of it. And, you know, it's just one of those games that, I mean, when CVS2 came out, I was really, really on Kyosuke. I really wanted to learn Kyosuke. Not so much with Batsu on TVC because Batsu is boring to me, but like Kyosuke was kind of cool. But Akira... And especially they talked about the way that Akira plays in rival schools. They're going to try to preserve that. If she can get air combos, I think that would be so sick. Like if you could launch and go jab, short, fierce, roundhouse, and like knock him to the ground and stuff. Like I actually think that would be kind of neat if they gave her that ability. And I mean, honestly, if it didn't do much damage, it would just be a standard combo ender, right? It wouldn't be anything that's broken or cheap. But she would just have some really interesting... They could do some really interesting things with her. I'm curious. And are they going to pull a CVS2 and pull in her teammates for a team super? You know, like, you feel like that has to happen. And there's got to be a new background with all the rival school characters in there, man. That'd be so sick.
I don't know anything about this, all right? I've never played that series. I've seen it. I've literally seen it 5 times. So I don't know any characters in it. I don't know how the game works. My entire experience about it, more or less, is you occasionally being like, you know, what would be cool is if this came back. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know, I guess. You know, because I don't know anything about it. So is there, do you really think, potential for cool stuff in this?
I mean, it depends on really how much they want to. Like, they announced Akira. Is there going to be... Is her teammates going to be more involved? Right? Can she actually call out? Because in rival schools, they didn't really play up the team aspect super well because after a while you could pick characters from different schools, which I never liked, by the way. But, you know, maybe her teammates can come in and actually do some work. Rival schools had this feature that no matter who you picked as your partner, because they were 3D, they could animate them the same way. So... You remember how in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Zangief had the team super where they would grab you and both go up in the air and come down and pile drive you, and it was really poorly animated because what can they do? Well, you know, obviously in rival schools, since they can give everybody the same animations, no matter who was on your team, when you hit them, that person would come out and do the team thing with you. You know, so they had this idea of team super, so I wonder if they can put that in there. I don't know if they're going to try to do any sort of helmet and helmetless version of her. Maybe she's a stance character that can switch between the two or something like that, but
okay.
Just part of the lore. You know, when she was first introduced, I mentioned this on Twitter. Akira wasn't... They worked really hard to make sure that her gender was unknown. Like, it really just felt like Akira was a dude. You just thought Akira was a dude. Here comes this guy in a biker suit or whatever. In her ending, it reveals that, you know, it's an all-boys school, so she has to, you know, disguise herself that way and everything because she's looking for her brother who's been hypnotized. Her brother is Daigo, which is, you know, funny. But, The funny thing is, when Rival Schools came out and they named one of the characters Daigo, that was around the same time as Street Fighter 3 came out and they named one of the characters Alex, and everybody was like, you put Alex?
Really?
Yeah.
Even at that time, did people think that was like maybe they actually named them after these players?
I mean, a lot of people were speculating it, but I don't know if that's actually the case.
Wow.
But Daigo and Alex are both very common names, right? So, I mean, I don't think it's like any...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But, I'm just excited because it acknowledges they acknowledge the existence of rival schools. Some of the girls were in the background. I think Tiffany was in the background of the beach stage. But still,
I've heard that, yeah.
Just having to have her Akira added in there, acknowledging rival schools. Maybe it's also a sign that they're going to make a new rival schools game, and so they're kind of pushed to put the character in there so that, to bring the awareness to a new rival schools or something like that. I think that would be sick.
That does sound cool, yeah. By the way, Max said that she was a huge request in Marvel 3 and almost made it into Marvel Infinite. I don't remember hearing about that, but I also don't have any familiarity with the character. It wouldn't have been something that I probably would have even thought about, like, remembering. So
now, one thing I will add, though, is that for me personally, I was never a huge fan of Akira as a character. There's tons of other characters I would have actually rather had in the game, but again, they put a rival schools character in there. I'm not going to complain. So
I hear that. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I don't have, like I said, any familiarity with the character. For me, this is completely something new.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm viewing this as a new character, and I'm cool with that.
Right, MSEA?
That's like what I was after that anyway, right? Give me something new. So
I wanted
Natsu. Cool for me.
I want Natsu or even Shoma. Like any of the sports people, dude. Natsu and Shoma would have been my favorites to put in the game. Shoma, of course, is the baseball player. Natsu is the volleyball player. So,
by the way, you mentioned stage, and she is going to have a stage.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if her teammates or whatever are going to be in there, but at minimum, they did mention that there's going to be a stage.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 4 characters that they announced. There's going to be a 5th character that is unknown yet. Can you put the roadmap up onto the screen real fast? It's in the run of show. Yeah. I do. Okay. Dan comes out in winter of 2020, and my guess is that means December of 2020. That's like winter, right, of 2020. It's not next year yet. And they've done stuff. They've put characters out in December each year. So I think that seems like a reasonable month to guess. He's going to have 4 costumes with him. There's also going to be a new stage. There's also going to be new costumes, and there's also going to be a new battle mechanic, a new balance as well, right? They've rebalanced slightly each year around this time as well, but new battle mechanic. I don't even know what it could be at this point. The second V reversal, maybe a second super.
Right, second super. I'm thinking is probably likely.
Could be that. My hope is that it's not something that changes the game too much. I don't want to see the equivalent of Red Focus come in now. I don't want something that changes things as much. If instead it's like the equivalent of like W Ultra, where it's like, not actually V-Trigger 1 plus V-Trigger 2, because that actually could be pretty silly. But instead, just like some additional option that doesn't really like super change how most characters play. It's just like maybe matchup based or something, but it's not like a reworking of the game or something that is significant in the way that Red Focus was, at least for some characters. Right. So my hope is that it's not a big change.
Don't tease me, Duck Helmet. Don't tease me.
There's no way, Duck Helmet. Yeah, it's not proximity normals, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, new battle mechanic. I mean, like you said, I hope they don't do anything too crazy that changes the complete complexion of the game. Because I think that would be... God, see, look, I mean, just... Like I said, I've never cared about Oro. But just that picture of him holding the turtle makes me care everything in the world about this character all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know. Oro becomes so sympathetic just carrying that turtle and looking like this ancient, decrepit old man. Are those muscles or are those his just fans of
Sad.
Skin sloughing off of his gross old body. You don't know. You don't know.
You know what the funniest thing is? Someone said that someone made the joke that if you look at the very last character reveal there, that says is a character question mark plus 3 costumes, right? They're like, well, peace out to anyone who wants Viper, because if it's only 3 costumes, it can't be a girl.
Right.
Because look at everybody else, right? Rose, 5 costumes. Akira, 5 costumes. Oro, 3 costumes. Dan, 4 costumes. So, if the last character was going to be Viper, it would be like 17 costumes. So,
Yeah, but some characters in the past, when they first came out, didn't have that many either. So, I don't know.
I know.
Who knows?
I just thought it was a really funny comment, though.
It is. And may not be wrong. We'll see.
But you know what? It's so far off the roadmap now. Fall of 2021. That's over a year from now. The fact that the final character is not decided or not revealed might even mean that it's not even decided yet who this character is going to be. There's a potential that this character could they don't know yet, or they're trying to work on getting certain characters in there that they can't, and so they're just leaving it up in the air, because they have so much time to plan for this character. They have a lot of time. Obviously, it's not like a character is created in 3 months or anything like that, but they still have another 2 months before it's a year from now. You know what I mean? They could still be working on a lot of things, so. They
do definitely have a while, and it may even be contingent on other stuff that they're going to announce in the future. Who knows what else they're going to be announcing after all? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for these 4. Well, I'm excited for 3 of these, and hopeful about Rose. Let me put it like that.
Damn.
But I think, to me, other than the fact that these characters here, Dan, Rose, Oro, Akira, new battle mechanic, those were the things that sort of jumped out to me immediately. And as I thought about it more, what also jumps out to me is this year, 2022, at the end. Because in 2022, they're going to put out a new CPT stage, and they're going to put out CPT costumes. Mm-hmm. And that means that they're going to have Street Fighter V for Capcom Cup 2022. And at minimum, that means that they'll be supporting it as a main esports game for another 2.5 years, almost, right? And I'm super stoked about that, honestly. Because you know me, I really enjoy the game, and I have been saying that I would love to just have a couple more years to play this game and enjoy it. And that's part of why I hope that the new mechanic doesn't change it too much. If you're somebody who doesn't like SF5, that's totally fine, right? There's a lot of other games that are great. But for the people who have ended up really liking Street Fighter V, I hope that they don't change it a lot and that they continue to support it. Those were my hopes, and it does seem like they are continuing to support it for at least a couple more years. Which means you would expect that Street Fighter 6 wouldn't come out until 2023, right? Because for the previous Street Fighter game, they just dumpstered it, right? Street Fighter 4 had its Capcom Cup, and then they literally played the RIP video. Street Fighter 4 died.
Thanks for the memories.
Yeah. So unless they drastically change how they do things, in my mind, this means that maybe Street Fighter 6 comes out in 2023.
Right.
At that point.
Max has a good point.
2.5, 3 years off. And I love it. Personally, I'm very, very happy for that idea.
Yeah. Max is right. February is always a good time frame because that's kind of like fiscal year kind of things. That's when a lot of games come out. It's either that or before Christmas. Is one of the 2 places that games usually come out. But like you said, I'm not in a hurry for Street Fighter 6. I know there's a lot of people who want it because they're tired of Street Fighter 5 or whatever. It's like you said, I enjoy the game right now. I like how it is. I think it's actually gotten to a really strong place. I said the same thing about Ultra Street Fighter 4, and everybody was like, oh, we need to kill this game and move on to the next thing because I hate uppercut FADCs and I hate one frame link. I would have loved to have had Ultra Bake for another year. Because I would have loved to have seen how that would have gone, to be honest with you. And so if we can get to the point where we add this, because the thing is, I don't want them to drop this last character and then immediately move on. I would like to see the character actually have a chance to get played a little bit more. Yeah, Street Fighter V's launch was awful, but that's because they rushed it. They rushed it, and we don't want that again. And so, if it takes them a while to get Street Fighter 6 right, let's do that then. Let's do that.
So this new character, the final of these 5 characters, comes out in fall 2021, and then there's going to be a CPT 2022 for Street Fighter V even still. So there's going to be a year to play this game, right? Even after there's all the characters done. I'm really happy about it. I really am. At the end of SF4, honestly, I didn't hate SF4, but I was ready for it to be over. So I get the perspective of people who are ready for SF5 to be over. I understand. Right. But I also remember thinking even at that time that I wouldn't want to just yank SF4 away from people who still really liked it. And I thought it was a bummer that they stopped supporting the game and that people stopped playing the game for the most part. Because I think people should continue to play the games that they enjoy. Yeah. So I get that perspective, certainly, of wanting a new thing. But I personally am really happy to know that we'll be playing this game if we want to, and I do, for the next couple of years. For me, that's big news.
And Moose says it the most accurately in the chat. Street Fighter 6 sucks. I miss the honest gameplay of Street Fighter 5.
Absolutely right. Get ready for that whole cycle again.
Yep.
We're planning to talk a little bit about the NRS scene, which is going through that whole cycle right now again. It's just every single time.
100%.
Every single time.
100% it's gonna happen. Everyone's gonna be like, man, look how fun these characters were in Street Fighter 5. The gameplay was so varied. Street Fighter 6 is all about new mechanic, and it's so garbage, you know?
Brackets, new mechanic.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when you could actually play footsies in Street Fighter 5. It's guaranteed. Regardless of how SF6 plays, regardless of how SF5 played, whatever. Remember the good footsies of Street Fighter 5? Because that's exactly what happened in SF4. And then you go back and it's like, yeah, there are some characters who have good footsies. And then you see like Yun diving in and Seth.
Fuerte.
Yeah, right. The reality is that every game has all these very unique things and it's not all about footsies. But in people's minds, that's... Anyway, it happens every single time.
And what was it? Oh, I was about to say... Oh, God. There was something else I was going to say, but it left my mind. Never mind. Okay, I'll try to think of it later, but... Yeah, it's the way it always works.
God, can you believe that they didn't put in V-Trigger this time in Street Fighter 6? This character plays exactly the same way the entire round. Where's the uniqueness, Capcom? Why can't I access an actually interesting part of this character? No. It's just going to be the same boring thing the entire round? No, thank you.
I remember what I was going to say now. Dude, like, everyone's always like, oh, yeah, blah, blah. You should, like, these new games are all shitty. You know, it's not like Super Turbo, which had all the fundamentals. Super Turbo? Yeah. With the fundamentals?
Come on, guys.
Look, I love Super Turbo, okay? Yeah. I love that game to death. If you're going to tell me Super Turbo is all about the fundamentals with Vega flying all over the screen and stabbing you from every single side, yeah, we can move on. We can move on, so...
Let's move on.
Right. V for Charlie had to play I Peru all the time. I can see him hating Fuerte, especially in Ultra. Oh, God.
What a character.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a break or you want to get to the Granblue stuff?
Let's just finish the Granblue stuff first.
Okay, yeah, you want to put the roadmap up for that one as well?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I should say that I got this from Event Hubs because these are translations. So these are English translations that Majin Tenshinhan made. They put a roadmap up, right? They had their own stream where they talked about the new stuff coming in, which is pretty cool. Let's see if you got it up there. So, a couple new characters coming in. Belial, I don't remember how to pronounce this, is a character that's coming in. It looks pretty cool, I would say. Did you see the trailer?
I did. He seems to be very popular, and he also seems to be one of those characters that people really find appealing. I saw a lot of people very, very happy about Belial being
added. It's Belial? Wow, I would
Belial?
never have guessed.
Oh, okay. I saw a lot of people being pretty happy that Belial was added to the game. So
yeah, I saw that as well. So I think that's super cool. And I would say I think the character looks super sick. Like the animations in there are awesome. The facial expressions are super cool. Definitely is well done. Check out the trailer if you haven't seen it. Definitely a sick trailer.
But
I don't know that there's too much to be said about gameplay style. I read a few people speculating on stuff, but can't. It's just a kind of a short thing, and it's hard to really get a good sense for that.
I mean, I'm just glad that the game is still going strong. Like I said,
for sure.
One of my biggest concerns was that I felt like the the pandemic hurt Granblue more than it hurt any other game, because Granblue never really got to get going. Every other game has had momentum, has inertia going into the pandemic. Granblue did not have that inertia. It just came out, because I even remember at the launch event, that was something people were kind of already talking about was COVID, and
that's true.
And the game came out, and then we never got to see Granblue at a Combo Breaker. We never got to see a Granblue at Evo. We don't have any of these storylines for this game. Think about Goichi telling Sonic Fox, "You're next" in Dragon Ball, and just where that went, right? And we never got this kind of thing for this game. And so seeing it being supported like this actually makes me really, really happy. And I hope it gets its shot. I hope it gets a fair shot, because this is one of those games that had the potential to do a lot of great things. And Japan tends to see a game not do well and think it's for the absolute wrong reasons. And I don't want them to be like, oh, we put in all this effort for the one-player mechanic, and here's all these beginner features, and it didn't sell. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, totally with you. So check out the roadmap here. Next character comes out September 24th. There's going to be balance changes, which makes sense. I think importantly, online lobby, online match functionality improvement. And I don't know exactly what that entails, but I hope to see something. That would be super nice. I hesitate to even mention it. Do not expect this to be rollback netcode. Okay.
Yeah.
Do not.
No way.
Do not.
No way.
But it would be nice to have some improvements. That'd be cool. Cagliostro releases after that. They showed that character at the end of the trailer, which is pretty cool. And then at that point, it's sort of similar to some of what we're talking about for SF5, where it's hard to exactly say. New character, new story stuff, new skins, but a lot of question marks. I think the best takeaway from this is a similar kind of takeaway. 1 year at least of additional support, which is great. There's going to be new stuff coming out until 2021 minimum, and that's when new character comes out. So that's not even to say what else they may be doing after that. So that to me is awesome. I know a lot of people who are big fans of this game, and I think that for them to be able to continue to feel like they can plan on taking this game seriously competitively, hopefully, no guarantees, hopefully by early summer 2021 we can be going back to offline events. No guarantees about that, but maybe. And at that point, hopefully we get to go back to some sense of normalcy, and people can play games that they like, even if it doesn't have great netcode.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see that continued support.
Yeah, I don't have hope for summer of 2021. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I mean, maybe not here where we're handling it so poorly, but other parts of the world in a year, it's plausible. Yeah. Already, some parts of the world are having offline tournaments and not feeling bad about it, right? So in a year, many more places could conceivably have more offline events.
I wonder, would it get to a point where maybe, let's say a vaccine comes out January, and if you get a vaccine shot, they would give you an official card that actually tells you that you had the shot, and you can't enter events unless you have that card or something like that. That'd be kind of...
You're talking about in this country? There's no way that happens. Maybe other places of the world, Maybe.
Oh, man.
Maybe. So, pretty cool news on this front as well.
Whoa, hi.
Continues to be a beautiful looking game.
Yes.
Anything else to say on this front?
No. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, I'm happy that they continue to do this. Hopefully they have another Pro Tour next year. We've talked about Arc Revo Online, which starts in the fall. So and it will have Granblue. I think for both US and Japan, if I recall correctly. US only has a couple of games. I think it's Granblue and BB Tag. In any case, I hope that they're putting out this character in 2021, summer of 2021, to then like have Arc Revo, maybe not online, but maybe online at that point, so that we could, still get more support for the game. We'll see.
Okay. Sorry,
All
being
right.
distracted by Cat over here, so.
Yeah, it is Granblue and BB Tag for US, yeah. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Cool. All right.
Mwah.
Well,
Yeah.
you want to take a break?
Because, I mean, like I said about Granblue, it's just crazy because, like, let's say they do an Arc Revo thing. Can you even tell me who you think the favorites would be to win such an event like this? And that's, like, one of the things that hurts. Like, who's the best U.S. Granblue fantasy player right now?
I'm not following it, but I'm sure that there are people who know that information.
Right, but that's the thing is if there was a combo breaker and Shoryuken, an Evo and all that stuff, we would all know the information,
Okay, yeah, that could be.
Kind of one of those things that makes me sad, so. Anyways, okay, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about some results and 5-5 matchup stuff. Be right back. Let's get some chill going here. There we go. It's probably too loud. There we go. That's probably better. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody going out there? Hope everybody.
Thanks for the sub, Poogas81.
Oh, Poogas is back. Nice. You know what? I haven't seen him yet. Snowboarding Bulldog. But I think Snowboarding Bulldog can definitely change his name back to one of the original names that he had now.
You're right.
I will also mention, I definitely know Poogas is back. Nice. I will also mention, I noticed a lot of people commenting on the fact that I'm always looking at my computer while I'm talking to David. And I just realized the reason why I do that is because I'm looking at David on my computer because I want to see his facial expressions and stuff. So, even though obviously I'm breaking the illusion that he's actually here, just, yeah, that's one of the main reasons because I'm actually looking at David when I look to the side just so I can see how he reacts to things. Dang, Richard Kuklinski with the 60-month subscription. Shout outs to Richard. 5 years, man. 5 years. That's crazy. But it's crazy that you can even have a 5-year subscription because that means we've been going for 5 years. I can't believe we've actually been doing this. We're in our freaking 9th year. Can you imagine if we get to 2021 and are still doing this? We'll be at Ultra Chen Tuesday shows 10 point something. 10 point something. So you guys can see this. Oh, that's a good question, Naughty Senpai. It's, I stopped doing first attacks because, they took a ton of time to prepare and a ton of time to edit. I put in a ton of work into first attacks. And then I would put them up on YouTube and they would, without question, get the least amount of views of anything that I put up on YouTube. So, I couldn't justify putting in that much work into the first attacks anymore. So I'm trying to look at a different way to approach first attack and try to do it differently, but we'll see. We'll see. Dude, I want to be a cat streamer. This is all I do. They need the category there called just catting. If they had the just catting category on there, I would definitely do that. I need a just catting category on Twitch. That's what I need right now.
Just catting, huh?
Yeah, because then this is all I would do all day. Look how happy he is.
Oh yeah, he's a cute little guy.
Oh.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I don't think Nathan is, but I'll be ready. All right. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Tuesday show. Just wondering if I can do this for the rest of the show here. I can definitely try, and I'll just rest of the show. We'll see what happens.
Works for me.
All right. Where did my thing go? Did I actually close this? Okay. I need to bust out my stream control again. Shout outs to Farp again for making stream control, which is awesome and a must use for everybody who does any sort of stream production. I actually introduced the stream the stream control to a lot of the Teppen guys recently, and it was really helpful in one of their most recent streams as well. So
okay, cool, man.
Yeah, I'm Oro now. I'm Oro now. Just make sure you don't see me kicking, at the bottom of the screen or anything like that. So.
All right, cool. You better stay buttoned up on your lower half as well, buddy. Let's talk about some stuff that happened over this past weekend. Animevo week number 1 began.
Yes.
So they are, to recap, we've talked about this in the past, but they are playing a bunch of different games on their schedule over the course of the next month. I think it's through until the end of August, and a ton of different games. So the games that they played over this past weekend included, well, I can just get to them, I guess, right? So the results: JoJo's Bizarre Adventure results. Gary Butternubs with Polnareff won. Nice work. Guru Slum got second, and Danny the Balu got third. Samurai Shodown 5 Special. Lodrak won with Zenkuro. Second was Moo Master, Mina, and Big Gucci D with Kazuki. Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. Winner was Abister with Shayna and Ario Towa. Second was Rain with Quenther and Floretia. And X-Legend got third with a bunch of different characters. Fighting X-Lair happened as well. Disintegration won it with Blair. Second place was Lord Jimmy Bones with Sharon and Shadowgeist. Third was Star Rich with Alan. Garo Mark of the Wolves as well. Winner was GITD Terry with Terry and B. Jennett. Then second was Kyoisent, and third was Morkman Freeman. Who I guess didn't play Freeman, but okay. Genius though. Breaker's Revenge. Winner was Lucas Rocha, 2013. Second was Morkman Freeman. Third was Lord BBH.
Oh, shout out to Lord BBH.
Umineko Golden Fantasia. Winner was Ada Basilisk. Second was Duck Gator, and third was Barzad.
True story. True story. I just have to say this. When I, at CES, when I won Marvel Superheroes at the Capcom booth and got my free copy of Resident Evil 1 and a bunch of Street Fighter Alpha keychains, Lord BBH was second place. He was the only other person there who knew how to play the game.
Okay, nice. And then to round it out, Guilty Gear XX Reload. Winner was Sonny Wartzik with Eddie. Second place was Nodge with Bridget Testament. Third, M Song with Robokai.
Wait, who won the Mahjong tournament?
Mahjong?
Did they not have the Mahjong there?
I didn't see that here. Is that something that's going to happen later? So I was going to say that this is going to be a long-term tournament.
Oh, Mahjong is only at top 32 right now. Gotcha. Dude.
Mahjong's whole, yeah.
They were actually just joking about that because they showed it on Twitch, that Animevo, because of that, there was like 16 different Mahjong Soul streams going on at once because everybody was playing.
Wow, that's amazing. So part 2 of that is this weekend. Also this weekend, BlazBlue, Central Fiction, Vampire Savior, Melty Blood, Fight of Animals, Nitro Plus Blasters. Windjammers as well to round it out, if I'm reading the schedule correctly. So each weekend there's a bunch of different stuff. So check it out. That's awesome. There's an entire schedule for streaming and all the sort of stuff that they're going to be doing. Check it out at animevo.moe. So ANIMEVO.MOE. You can get the full schedule for what's going on.
Gundam Jehudi Kai says there are more entrants, 256 plus entrants for Mahjong. There are more entrants for that game than most of the other games combined.
Dang, shoutouts to Mahjong.
That's crazy. I mean, look, I don't know if you've ever played Mahjong before. That game is hella addicting. Now, I play by Taiwan rules, so I know it'll be different rules than what they're playing by, but still, God, Mahjong's addicting. Oh, God, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I've read about it. My friends have told me about it. It seems like there's a lot of cool strategy in there. No, I've never played it. Seems cool.
The interesting thing is, like, depending on how you play the game, like, it's really kind of one of those, it's a lesson, I guess, in, like, probability and, like, because, like, on Hong Kong version, you can play to win very easily, but you won't make any, like, you won't actually earn anything. But if you actually play to, like, get the most points possible and you win one time, you can win way more than even if just, you know, you win the easy way, like 4 times, 5 times, and then another person wins in one of the crazy ways once, and all of a sudden, you know, they just destroy everybody. So it's really interesting how it works out that way. Mahjong is fun.
So, upcoming stuff for Animevo as well. Then there was also the Grand Stampede. The Grand Stampede was a big Them's Fightin' Herds tournament. Of course, when Evo blew up, the expected first, like, really super large tournament for Them's Fightin' Herds was supposed to have been Evo. That didn't end up working out.
Right.
So instead, they people put this together. I know some of my friends worked on this. Streaming was actually done at Main 6, so I know they had some involvement in this as well. Pretty cool. A lot of interesting players, and I watched a bit of the top 8. Super cool. You know, we've talked about the game. We both think it's super interesting. Very, very well done. Pretty game. Cool audio visuals. Interesting gameplay. So, results. Bubble Boots, Arizona. Playing Arizona, I should say. Got first place. Second place was Candle with Arizona as well. Third was FF 5x5, who played Velvet. Fourth was QT Bycalf with Oleander. 5 was Main 6 MPK with Oleander, Arizona, and Velvet. And 5th as well, Java Morris with Arizona. 7th were Betty Crocker Easy Bake Set Play with Oleander. And Linkster with Paprika. There were the results. I haven't kept up with the game to know enough about the tiers, but there's a lot of Arizona and stuff in here. I mean, keep in mind that there's, like, not a lot of characters in the game right now.
Yeah, there's 6 characters, and Arizona mix-up is just brutal. It's just like,
for sure,
you just get once she gets started, it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I need to watch.
I mean, like I said, I watched it, and it definitely seems good. Movement and mix-ups with that character seem strong.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to actually see any of that tournament. I'm gonna have to go look for the archives for that. So.
Yeah, it was on Main 6's stream. It was definitely cool.
I wonder if they've got it up on YouTube at this point. I'll look it up.
I don't know. Yeah, there was a Palm in top in 9th, I should say. There's a Palm and Tianhuo in 13th. But yeah, interesting.
I know, and Tianhuo is like the crazy Magneto too. It's right. You know what? You're not the best character in the game.
No, I think it's pretty cool. Again, shout-outs to everybody involved with running that tournament. Really great for that scene to have still gotten something big, even though Evo didn't work out. You know, nice to have eyes on it. More than 400 people played, so pretty cool.
Some people were saying there was like 400 plus entrants in there, so that's really awesome. I'm really glad to hear about that.
I just said that.
Oh, did you say that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's all good, man.
Reading the chat at the same time.
All right. Some results there. Some Other stuff to talk about. So Power Rangers Battle for the Grid League has been is going on weekly, I should say. So that's something that they had talked about doing, right? This is happening as a weekly sort of thing. They're getting more than 60 people to sign up, or about 60 people to sign up for this. So, that game as well is definitely getting support. The dev is definitely doing a good job at supporting it. Good streaming of it. People are definitely giving it a good shot, which is awesome to see. Winner this week was FMM Chimera. Skills Dat Kills got second, and then Hitbox YLT Cole got third.
Yeah, and it's hot too. Sorry, that was a complete random reference. I don't know if anybody's gonna get that reference. Okay.
And then another thing to address is console combat has been going on. Console combat online. This is done by CGL. They have had tournaments already for Mortal Kombat and something else. This coming weekend is actually Injustice 2, but this last weekend was Killer Instinct, and I actually commentated. I did KI commentary.
Oh, dude, nice. Okay.
It was super fun, and I did it with Nikki. So that was a blast. Obviously, he knows more about the game than I do. But it was fun, and I've been playing that game a lot lately, right, over the last, over COVID. And so I didn't feel as, out of it informationally as I was worried that I might feel.
Okay.
So I thought that it went pretty well. I did say some stuff that was wrong. And I realized that in one case immediately, and in another case after the fact. But I think, two things I was, happy about that I only got wrong. But in general, I thought that it went really well with commentary.
The thing again, if I know people have that expectation that people aren't ever going to be wrong on commentary, it's going to happen all the time. And as long as the people acknowledge it, right? As long as they're yeah, I think, maybe, what, kind of thing, or...
Look, you should know most of it, right? And Anyway, I think that it went pretty well. This was streamed on CGL Stream, which is twitch.tv/CGL1.
Ow.
So, winner was Jeremy Cato. He is a player from Chile.
Ooh.
And he plays Arya. And he beat Chronicle, who's another Arya player. So the Arya Grand Finals happened. But Jeremy blew up Chronicle's Arya so badly that then Chronicle switched to Shadow Jago. And still, Jeremy reset the bracket, I should say, and then ended up winning and took the whole thing. Base got third. He played Eagle in the whole top 8. Delta Rayquaza was up there as well. He got 4th. Then Young Tate and Lord Calypso were 5th. And then Valarax and Latalis Venator were 7th places as well. Really good. I mean, there's great character variety as always, even though it ended up being a mirror match in Grand Finals. And I asked Nikki, I was like, have you ever seen a Grand Finals have a mirror match in this game? Because I feel like I've never seen that before.
Right.
And he said the only time that I'm aware of that happening was when Nikki, played a full gore mirror match in Grand Finals one time. But other than that, nobody. So I think that's really cool.
Is Arya
very fun to watch?
Is Arya considered one of the strongest characters right now?
Yeah, she's super strong.
Okay,
for sure. She's definitely strong.
Okay.
Yeah. But that said, still, she's hard to play. There aren't that many people who play her at that kind of level.
Very fragile. So
yeah, the thing is that she starts out super strong, but then just by the nature of her body's dying, right, or sort of just becoming, she has a cyst that can die.
Right.
As the game goes on, she gets weaker, whereas other characters get stronger in many cases. She's the opposite. So anyway, she's very good, but it was really fun to watch. And that's it. That's all I got for tournament results. Just wanted to shout out a couple of those, as well as the big stuff, Animevo and Grand Stampede. All right.
I saw the tail.
Looks like HX has decided to drive over here as well and join us.
And also...
So he and your kitty cats can hang out. What's up, my man?
That is a giant cat. Oh, man.
Hello. All right, let's move on. You want to talk about 5-5 matchup stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's move on to the next part.
Oh, are we muted? Is that what's going on?
No, I don't think so.
I think it's muted.
We're muted again?
Am I muted?
Can you hear me? People in the chat are saying
Can
that
James hear me?
they can hear. I can hear you, David. Can you hear me? David can't hear me. Oh, you know what? That guy.
Well, I can't hear James. I don't know if any of you can hear James.
What about now? Can you hear me? How about now, David? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? What in the world? I think that call messed everything up. I actually think the call messed everything up. Hang on a second. This is actually really hard to do one-handed. I have to put the turtle down so I can try to fix this. Hang on a second.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Ooh, I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay.
Here's what happened. So, this little guy walked on my keyboard, and my keyboard has a mute button on it. And what must have happened is that he walked on the keyboard that I've brought over to your place, and anyway, here at your place, he muted my headset so I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
As you know.
I thought, because I got a freaking Discord call in the middle of this, and so I thought that actually messed up my audio or something.
Shout outs to kitty cats.
Oh, man.
All right, let's talk about 5-5 matchup. Are we good?
Yes, let's do this.
All right, cool. The first one that I wanted to address just briefly, I'm not even really sure what there is really to say about this. It's just a bummer. The NetherRealm Studios games scene, some of the top players are becoming, well, not becoming, they're maybe expressing more disappointment with MK11. They're not big fans of how some of the mechanics work, specifically Fatal Blow, Breakaway. Other people have some other complaints, but those are the two that crop up the most. And
what are they complaining
they'd like to
about?
see,
like, what are they mad about in Fatal Blows and Breakaway?
with those two? The fact that Fatal Blow comes back if you use it, and it doesn't actually connect. The fact that it has armor on it. The fact that there's not like a obvious like screen flash like many other games have, where it's like the super's coming, make sure to block. Stuff like that. They don't like. Okay. And then the Breakaway doesn't work how breakers worked before, where you just press the button and it's a breaker. This is down plus block, and that input is annoying for people. In some cases, you can actually punish people for hitting certain combos if you break away at certain points, right? So the defender the person getting hit can become the attacker in some instances. But there's stuff that they don't like about it. And it just feels like complaints have been getting louder. And I don't like something about a game, I won't tell you to not say it, But it does feel like that's been happening more. And to the point where Mr. Aquaman just got fed up about it and essentially tweeted that he was going to take a break, and he didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I'm not sure if there's anything else going on. I don't know. I haven't asked. I don't want to pry, but he did say that he's going to step away. He just doesn't want to deal with it. The reason that what I would like to connect this to is this cycle. Right, and we addressed this briefly when we were talking about Street Fighter V into Street Fighter VI, and how we could learn lessons from how Street Fighter 4 to 5 went and how 3 to 4 went, and it's the same exact way when it comes to this scene's games. So when Injustice 1 was coming out, then when MKX was coming out, then when Injustice 2 was coming out, then when MK11 was coming out, each time, and sometimes before that, people in the scene would start saying oh, there's some things I don't like about this. I don't like whatever it is. Different people, it's different stuff, of course. But it feels like that begins every time at about the same time. Again, there are people who have complaints the whole time, right? I mean, it's not to say that there's they just come up with new complaints, but instead that it's it feels like it builds to this noticeable crescendo at about summer of the second year. To me, that's what I've noticed. I put that on Twitter, and several other people were like, "Seems like clockwork, right? This is like when it happens." What do you think? I mean, these are quite different games, right? Each MKX and MK11 are quite different, and Justice 2 is quite different, and Justice 1 they're different. So it's not that there's like the same complaints each time.
I mean, it just sounds like...
Do you have any thoughts about like why it could be this sort of cycle that continues to sort of happen?
Hang on a second. I have to... Hang on. There's something totally going off to the side over here. Hang on a second. Someone is trying to contact me. But I mean, it sounds like it's more...
People are mentioning the cycle, right? So each 2 years there has been a new game. There have been hints that MK11 would not break, or would not do that it would break that cycle. Maybe it's 4 years, even is the rumor. There are also some signs that maybe there could be an Injustice 3 on the horizon. For example, like being involved in this like DC thing coming up. Maybe that's where they'll announce it. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like there's this sort of cycle each time, and it's not like it's exclusively an NRS thing. Again, SF has had this, right? Many other game series have had this sort of feeling, but it does seem pretty regular. It seems like it's pretty clockwork almost in this case.
I mean, it sounds like it's just mostly has to do with the community itself. I mean, is it a lot of the top players too? Are there a lot of people like, like Rewind and Combat and all those guys, or
Yeah, there's some top players who have said that they're not stoked about where it is right now. Definitely. Yeah, and some people who have said that they're not playing it anymore. They would keep playing it if there was money involved, but they don't love it enough to like keep the grind up if there's not a lot of money involved. So sure, yeah, it's happening, and there are some top players who really like it as well, right? To be clear, but it does feel like quite a few of them have been vocal about having some problems. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Like it's weird that it seems to be so cyclical, that it is every single time. Do you feel like it is just the community? Do you feel like that maybe because because it could be one of the things that the 2-year cycle can kind of break your ability to accept and put up and learn how to deal with things. Because by the time you're tired of dealing with it, you can move on to something else. Because like, I'm tired of dealing with Injustice crap, the things that you hate. Oh, here's the new Mortal Kombat. Tired of dealing with all the Mortal Kombat stuff. Oh, here's the new Injustice. And so what happens is, from like, let's say the Street Fighter standpoint, we've been playing Super Turbo for 20 years, Third Strike for 10 years, right? Yeah. We just dealt with...
Third Strike for 10 years, did you just say?
Even more than that now. Sorry, Street Fighter 4 is 10 years, right? Yeah, Third Strike is 15.
Street Fighter 4 is 12 years right. Even. We're very old.
So basically, you're just used to accepting the way it is and dealing with it. Now, obviously, even in Street Fighter 5, patches have kind of changed the mindset, but I think there's enough legacy and old school mindset in the scene that they're like, oh, you know what? The veterans will be like, yo, you just deal with this, and watch how we beat this kind of thing. And I think because of the life cycle of the NRS games, it does allow them to escape what they hate, go to something else, enjoy the new thing to the point where they hate it again. Because that happens to everybody, right? Everyone's going to play a fighting game, and you're going to end up hating something in particular in the fighting game. Like, it's just the way it is. You're going to hate this character. You're going to hate this mechanic. You're going to hate something, right? It's always going to be something, but different scenes just have the ability to respond to it differently because I think that they have the experience of just having to live with it. You're forced to live with it. You're forced to deal with it. But the NRS scene has this weird thing that when you stop playing the game, kind of like Street Fighter 4, it just gets kind of pieced out. And so for them, I don't think they have the experience to handle that kind of situation. And so maybe that's the problem that's being caused right now. Maybe they just don't have that experience. And maybe it's time that, if Mortal Kombat 11 could stick around for a while. But see, now the problem is they're so accustomed to it that they're actually leaving. They're just not playing anymore, which is a problem. I don't know how you change that culture. I don't know how you change that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that either. One thing that I would like to see is, and I've wanted this from the start, is I want to have a firm idea of what the direction is. Is this a game that we can expect to continue to be NRS's like main fighting game for the next 2 years, or not? You know, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you announce Injustice 3 or whatever game. But just to have an idea, like the roadmaps that we were just talking about for Granblue and for Street Fighter, that kind of stuff is really nice. And one of the complaints that people have said is that they don't feel like NRS has been communicating well enough. Okay. I would say that I think that is in general super weird from the perspective of fighting game fans from other genres, or other games, I should say, because in fact NRS is mostly super good at that. There has been a pandemic on over the last half year, so nobody's been great at that. But I think in general NRS has been really good about that. So I don't like that complaint at all personally. But I would like to see, and I've wanted this the whole time, to just know so that we can game plan. You know, if you're somebody who doesn't like MK11, fair enough, right? We all have different tastes, but if you may deal with the game differently if you expect that it's not going to be the main game anymore in 6 months, versus if you expect that it's going to be the main game in 2 years. You might adjust how much you're playing it, or if you're playing it, or whatever, just to, maybe you move on at that point. I don't know. I would really like to have more information. I understand that that's not something that is probably gonna come, but I'd like to know. As far as how to change the culture, I don't know. Like I said, specifically, I don't think this is like a specifically NRS thing. It's just that it comes up more frequently in NRS scene than it does in many other fighting game scenes whose games are not, brand new every 2 years. Maybe there's a patch or something, but it's not like a new game. Whereas here it is, so it's just maybe more noticeable. But yeah, it sucks. I wish that there was a good way to deal with it. The way that I've dealt with it, unfortunately, is by not really following that many people unless I know them personally. I'm not in other game scenes that I follow. I try to follow a lot of people, so I'm getting news about characters. Here's new tech. Here's an upcoming tournament. Here's a stream that's happening. My Twitter feed is full of that sort of stuff for Street Fighter and KI right now, and in the past, for Marvel and whatever else is going on. I'm not doing that for MK because, yeah, I didn't want to. I felt like there was a lot of just stuff that I got tired of seeing, just whining about stuff.
Like I said, there's no, in a weird way, a lot of the other scenes are like, man, I don't like how this is, but we got to deal with it. Even though BlazBlue keeps coming out with new versions, it's still BlazBlue, right? It's not like the NRS scene where it's literally a brand new game, brand new mechanics, and they're switching back and forth, so the game changes pretty substantially back and forth. Even if Injustice 1 and Injustice 2 have a lot of similar mechanics between each other, there's a Mortal Kombat in between that really kind of, shakes you up a little bit and then goes back to the other one. And so, like I said, I guess they just haven't had that feeling of well, I either play this or I don't play anything. And they're really used to being able to play for a year and a half, leave, and have something to come back. If NRS announces a roadmap that there's no Injustice 3 coming until 2022 or something like that, would that make them all come back? Because then there's here's our roadmap for Mortal Kombat 11. It's going to go till 2022. Here's new characters. And that might make them just be well, snap, I have to play this if I want to play something, and then come back. But like I said, I don't know if that will just make them quit or make them go to another fighting game or something. And it's a tough situation because it's something I hadn't thought about, but for sure, just having that pattern and that history and that ability to escape from the game that you don't like, knowing that in 6 months a brand new thing is coming out, really changes your mindset on how you would approach a lot of these games. Because like I said, in a lot of other scenes, like Dragon Ball, you're with Dragon Ball. Guilty Gear, you're with Exerd the whole entire time, even though there's a sign and a Revelator and a Revelator 2. Yeah. But it's still the same game, so it's just very interesting.
And yeah, it's true what some people are saying in the chat, that there's a little bit less crossover between players, between NRS games and other fighting games. Mm-hmm. Some other fighting games have a little bit more crossover between stuff. It's not to say that there's none in NRS games, but it is a little bit less than some. And what's funny too is that occasionally I'll see somebody who I am following reply to somebody who says something like they'd like to see more communication or they'd like to see more frequent updates, and that person is like a Madden fan. Like they're playing Mortal Kombat, but like they're a Mortal Kombat, they're Madden, they're Call of Duty, and that is just like a separate group of people compared to most fighting game fans, right? That's the crossover, that is to say, is not necessarily Mortal Kombat to BlazBlue or, you know, whatever other fighting game. It's maybe Mortal Kombat to more mainstream giant titles like Madden and COD and stuff like that. And in those games, yeah, certainly there's a new one of those
every year,
all the time, all the time. And I don't know anything about how their teams communicate with people, but I don't know, maybe it's more. I really don't know. But if that's the expectation, and it's instead what is great for fighting game context, but maybe that's not as good as people are expecting from other stuff. Right. I don't know. It's definitely a different group. I mean, the top level NRS players are like definitely like fighting game players for sure. But as far as some other parts of the scene, I think the crossover may be between MK and other games, not necessarily MK and Street Fighter or whatever, KOF.
So the fighting games aren't necessarily what they're impassioned about, so they can just go play Madden or something else and get the same kind of competitive adrenaline there. So yeah. I
as I've mentioned, I'm really happy with MK11 personally, and I'm trying not to phrase this in a way that is like dismissive of people who aren't into it as much, because I think that's a legitimate opinion. You know, it's not one that I personally agree with, but you know, we can all disagree about which games we like and why. So I don't want to phrase this as just being like, will these babies ever get over it? You know, no. I think
say it, David. Say it.
Well, that's not my opinion. I think that it is legit to have criticisms. It's just pretty tiring for people to view it constantly.
Yeah,
and I think that's that sort of very frequent negativity. And if you're completely ensconced in that scene, and I think this might have been the case for Aquaman, you know, he follows some other stuff, but he certainly plays Mortal Kombat and watches Mortal Kombat, and I think that it may be more, he's in the midst of it more than I am. And that may have just gotten to be too much for him. I mean, honestly, like I've left some Discords that I was in. I'm not posting on Test Your Might anymore. I'm not on other groups. Like I've pulled back slightly. I'm still playing the game all the time and streaming, and like I want to watch streams, but sometimes the streams that I'm watching begin to become I don't know. This is the show about how we hate certain mechanics rather than like let's play the video game, right? Like let's like enjoy the fighting game. If you're not into it, don't play it. You know, I mean, that's all.
What a lot of people don't understand
get a little bit tired.
You know, I mean, this is kind of like one of those internet argument things, right? Whenever somebody says like, "Oh, I'm tired of having to deal with this," or you know, "I'm a woman in the fighting game community and I'm tired of," and everyone's like, "Get a thicker skin," kind of thing. Like people don't realize how tiring it is to hear it day after day after day after day. You know, if you are a fan of Mortal Kombat and everywhere you go, you just hear all these people like, "God, this sucks because of this. This sucks because of this. This sucks." Like, it doesn't matter how thick of a skin you have, man. 1,000,000 BB shots is getting through an armor. You know what I mean? It's just, that's the way it works. I mean, water creates a canyon. You know what I mean? Like literally, you can only take so much. And it's tough to deal with that. So if you are a Mortal Kombat fan and you just have to sit there and listen to that all the day, we talked about that, you know, with Hungrybox as well, you know, having to deal with all the Jigglypuff stuff and him wanting to almost kind of step away. I mean, he didn't, obviously, but like he talked about it. And so, you know, for Aquaman, it's like, here's this thing you love. Here's this thing that you've worked so hard to promote. You put in your own blood, sweat, and tears, and all you do is hear people just complain about it all day. You know, at some point in time, you just, I mean, yeah, I don't blame him for wanting to step away, honestly.
there continues to be cool stuff going on in the scene. There continue to be weekly tournaments. There's big streams all the time. There are money matches. Like, it's a very vibrant scene.
Yeah.
But it does also feel like there's this like layer of,
you know,
I don't know,
and
annoyance.
people even say like, "Oh, support the indie devs, support the indie devs." It's the same kind of situation, man. I mean, some of the things that you have to deal with as an indie developer as well, and you know, obviously they can do it because it's the only game that they're working on. But even then, like if you're supporting an indie dev and all you do is complain about this feature, that feature, whatever like that, it's gonna get tiring to the indie devs as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boy, shout outs to community managers. That is a job I would not want to do. And I'm not just talking about for NRS, but just as a job, whatever like brand or company or game or whatever you're working for, man. That sounds pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, just like Cyborg says in the chat, as soon as Ed Boon posts anything, Melina, you know, it's like...
It's incredible.
Jeez.
It's incredible, yeah. But again, yeah, just the job, again, not just for this company, but like in general, that job sounds real tough.
Yeah.
Real tough.
And a lot of the times you're just not... Like, people ask and bug these people with questions that... I don't know why they think that these companies are just allowed to be like, yeah, we're adding Melina in next season, you know, like...
Right, yeah. Or that the person who's running that account has control over the IP and what the game does, right? I mean, in many cases, there are people who are employees there. I mean, they're involved, but in many cases as well, they're just like contractors or even interns in some cases.
Yeah. I mean,
they just don't have control over that stuff.
Like, even with the smaller communities, like with Teppen right now, you can tell that the English, you know, Play Teppen account, they tweet out all these things. You can tell they have no control over the game whatsoever. And, you know, because the community's small enough, I think people understand that and they don't bug them about that. But, you know, with the bigger communities, I don't think people understand that kind of thing. You know, it's very odd. Like, you know, Capcom Fighters will tweet out like, hey, by the way, this event is coming up this weekend, and people respond with like, where's Makoto? And you're just like...
Right, yeah. It doesn't just happen for big companies, though. So I've been playing a lot of Rocket Arena lately, and I know, because I've seen it on the Reddit, that there is constant complaints about whatever feature of the game that I'm super enjoying, and I don't have any complaints, but there are people who have complaints, and it's just constant. Yeah. This character's too good. This thing's too good. When's the next whatever? Like, just, it's constant. Yeah. And so it's not, and that is not a big game community, you know, to be honest. But even still, that's the job of community manager. You're constantly dealing with that stuff.
Imagine what it was like before social media. Community manager must have been such a nice job. You only have to post once, like every month, on some random like BBS board or something. You know?
It wasn't a job.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's not a new job, because some things had it, but no, for many of these companies, they didn't have somebody whose job was that. It was the PR side of things, maybe, but there wasn't like a community manager in the modern sense until not long ago.
God, right? Street Fighter V already has like 6 Makotos.
I know, absolutely.
Dude, look,
absolutely.
G can combo you after a command grab. What do you want Makoto for? Like, what is Makoto gonna offer that G doesn't? Besides being, you know, a cute tomboy character that people have a thing for, you know? I mean, well, that is the answer right there, so never mind. That is the answer.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Anything else to say about this one?
It's unfortunate. I don't know how you can change the culture. I don't know how, because it's one of the hardest things to do is change what people are very, very used to. But there's a lot of new players in the scene. Hopefully, I mean, weirdly enough, are some of the newer players, you know, not being as frustrated, or are they just getting affected by all the whining? You know?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, there are some players who are cool with the game. There are some who are not. There are people who didn't even play Injustice, but maybe just kept maining MKX, who aren't big fans of MK11 as well. So it just runs the gamut.
Yeah, it's a frustrating situation, because you'll emulate the behavior that you see. So if you see even like your favorite players complaining about something, they'll be like, yeah. I mean, because that's exactly what happened with Street Fighter 4. anytime any top player said anything about anything, that's what became the argument. FADCs were annoying. As soon as one person said that, then there was, yeah, you're right, FADCs are terrible. You know, it's like, it's so quick to bandwagon on a lot of these complaints. And, you know, a lot of it might even just come down to the leadership of the community as well, so...
Well, I would say that a lot of people had complaints about that. And I don't want to diminish people's complaints by saying that they're all bandwagoning, because I don't know. And I think many people probably came to similar ideas for similar reasons rather than bandwagoning. But yeah, maybe bandwagoning has evolved too. I don't want to reject that.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's the only reason why people say it. Obviously, it's probably a legitimate complaint. But if you're just one of those players who's playing the game and kind of enjoying it but find that annoying, as soon as someone complains about it, you're like, wait a second, and you start noticing it, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, it's totally true, you know, kind of thing. So it's a weird line to walk. It was a weird line to walk. Especially as an influencer, you know, in the community as well. If you're a popular player in the community, you have to be careful about that, because a lot of the things you say can really affect a lot of what other people think about the game.
I hear that.
Let's move on to the next one then.
All right, sure. So let's move on to the viewer questions. Ready for that?
Yep, let's do this.
Let's read them. Number 1. What is up with the recent trend in fighting game tier lists to not place anyone below B tier and have a bunch of characters in S tier? Isn't S tier reserved for broken characters? And shouldn't B tier be considered average? 2. Should online tournament organizers try to reach casual viewers or focus on maintaining entrenched fighting game fans? 3. Did Street Fighter 4's success undermine the potential revival of other fighting games from Capcom? If so, could it have been handled better? 4. What are your favorite documentaries based on fighting game franchises? And the winners, because there are 2 tied.
Oh, really?
Number 1, what is up with the recent trend in fighting game tier lists to not place anyone below B tier and have a bunch of characters in S tier? Is an S tier reserved for broken characters, and shouldn't B tier be considered average? That tied with, did Street Fighter 4's success undermine the potential revival of other fighting games from Capcom? So, tier list 1 first?
Sure.
Let's do it.
What is up with the recent trend in fighting game tier lists to not place characters anyone below B tier and have a bunch of characters in S tier? I agree with that thought process that S tier is usually considered kind of broken, but nowadays S tier just is considered the best character in the game. And the problem is, I also agree with the other side too, that, you know, a lot of the games there's no characters worse than a B tier, right? So I feel like the reason why we use S tier is because if everybody is an A and B, then we have no variety. You have to have some sort of dividing. I mean, do you just stretch it out so it's A plus A, A minus B? You know, like that.
I actually do that. That is how I construct tier lists.
Which is honestly how I probably would do it. Now, here's the thing. There's 2 ways to approach this, because the worst thing about this is, I mean, this is such a conversation that I've had with other people online, because they get mad when I say things like Street Fighter V doesn't have a bottom tier. I'm like, there's no low tier character in Street Fighter V. And there's the 2 trains of thoughts. Do you tier characters based off of relative strength to each other and assign them in ladder categories like that? Or do you actually assume that the letters have an assumption of the quality of the character?
Right.
I am more of the latter half, right? So I would rather do, like, there are some people who would say, what's the difference between A plus A, A minus B plus B, and having S, A, B, C, D, E? Right. Because relative to each other, you're just putting them in tiers like that. I don't agree with that, just because through the history of time, when you said this is a D tier character, you're like, okay, they're garbage, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't like doing that. So when I say that there are no low tier characters in Street Fighter V, I just mean that there's no one that's below B or B minus, you know? Like, I really don't think that there's really... Well, okay, C tier maybe. There's a couple of characters in C tier. But in general, like, I wouldn't put anyone in like D or D minus or even a C minus. I might even only go as low as a C plus kind of thing, you know, because to me the letter has an assumption about the quality. So S really does feel like you are just like you have no bad matchups. Like you clearly are one of the most dominant characters in the game. Is there anyone in Street Fighter V like that? Debatable, but right off the bat, like I don't feel like Nakaruru in CVS1 is S tier. You know, Chun-Li in Third Strike, Yun in Third Strike are S tier, clearly. And if I don't think there's anybody in Street Fighter V that is at that level, you know?
Well, I agree with Good Normals, who kind of has a breakdown where it's like S tier is broken, A tier is very good, B tier is good, C tier is viable, D tier is bad, F tier is not viable. I think I might not even have it stretched out to F. I've never really used an F tier. But I think I agree with the sentiment, which is that tier names have a meaning that exists, in my mind, outside of the game itself.
Right.
So there are two things that are happening at the same time in organizing a tier list. One, what are the characters relative to each other? So when you're talking about relative tiers, I absolutely think there are low tier and bottom tier characters in Street Fighter V, because that is a signifier of relative tier, right? Relative strength, and
it's impossible
it cannot not exist in a fighting game, right?
Yeah.
There's been no examples where every character is even. So for sure, I think that you can continue to talk about top tier, high tier, mid tier, low tier, bottom tier. That all makes sense. At the same time, you can talk about tiers in more numbered or lettered sorts of ways. And those, in my mind, exist outside of a game, right? There's a concept of an A tier that I would fit to a game rather than the opposite way around, right? I view in my mind A tier as being the good character, the best characters in the game outside of the broken S tier characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine a game, because I think there are some games right now that are simultaneously containing top, mid, and bottom tier characters, and also characters who are only in A tier or B tier, right? At the same time, I think both of those concepts work together well. It's a signifier of, yes, these characters are better than the others, these characters are worse than the others, but simultaneously a signifier of none of these characters sucks, and none of these characters are broken. Right? So I think if you arrange a tier list in that way, you're getting the point across, both that nobody's terrible, but also that some characters are better than others, which is right. Yeah. So I think the reason that you see this more often is that games today tend to be better balanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really. You go back even 10, 15 years and you find games that are less balanced, let alone games from 20 years ago, which are full of very imbalanced stuff in many cases.
You can
games today do a better job of that. So you just don't as often see characters who are bad. Mm-hmm. And while in every game you're going to have these like top, middle, bottom sorts of arrangements, relatively speaking, not every game's going to have a D tier or a C tier. Not every game, in my view, should have an S tier. I know that for some people, the idea of S tier has just become, like you said, these are the best characters in the game. And to the extent that's the meaning of it, okay. That's not the meaning that I assign to that, but I get that other people assign that sort of meaning. But as far as why it feels like we're condensing stuff, I think it's because the games are less imbalanced than they used to be.
Yeah, nothing more evident of that than the fact that nowadays people consider 6-4 matchups bad.
Dude.
Remember?
Back in SF4 days, the first time I heard somebody say, "Ooh, that's a hard 6-4," I was like, "Are we speaking the same language? What do you mean? A 6-4 is the least not even that it could be.
Right.
Like, it doesn't get more almost even than 6-4.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's almost
now it's not how people use the words.
Yeah, it's almost to the point right now where what we used to call 6-4 is the dreaded 5.5, 4.5 now, you know. It really is. Because for us, like, yeah, I think this total fight is totally even, but I think this character has a slight advantage. So 6-4, you know, that's how it used to be. Nowadays, it's like, God, this match is practically unwinnable. Wow. It's a 6-4.
Hard 6-4. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think part of that is because matches actually have become a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
It's rarer to have matchups that are big blowups. And even in games where that still exists, those are rarely the 9-1s of, you know, launch Blaze Blue or whatever, right? I mean, that's just very uncommon nowadays.
Right.
So I think it makes sense that people have gotten used to saying, like, 6-4 in their minds is something that they saw often. And now sort of you would never describe a match as 8-2 or 9-1 because it probably just doesn't exist. So we're just focusing on 6-3 or, in worst case scenario, 7-3. 6-4, 7-3. Where you go.
7-3 to them is unwinnable. Yeah, I talk about 9-1 matchups. I even rated a matchup 10-0 in Super Turbo once in my life.
Yeah, well, that was a little wild of you, but 9-1 is good. I agree with that.
I wasn't too wrong, but still. 9-1, all right, fine. It's a 9-1.
Yeah, some games do have that, but I think that's pretty rare nowadays. All right, and then the next question that tied for first place here: did Street Fighter 4's success actually undermine the potential revival of other fighting games from Capcom? So Street Fighter 4 did have good success, and is commonly looked at as one reason why fighting games began blowing up not long after SF4 came out. Within sort of a few years, lots of stuff had come back, or was brand new. And I don't know, of course, Capcom then came out with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and then Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It came out with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, came out with Street Fighter 5, came out with Marvel Infinite. I feel like Capcom's been doing stuff. Sometimes those were bad launches, but it's been doing stuff. I don't know. What do you think about this question?
No. Not at all.
Big not emphatic? No?
Not even a question. Not even a possibility. In fact, Street Fighter 4 gave more possibility for any of these games to be made at all. If Street Fighter 4 had no success, there'd not even be a talk about rival schools. You know, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to even say Akira from rival schools. Whoa, this is crazy. Like, literally, there's no question about that. The reason why the other franchises don't work, I would blame it more on, but Cross Tekken more than anything, because Marvel 3 came out and was a success. Then they screwed that up with the Marvelverse Ultimate in less than a year, which was one problem.
10 months later.
Cross Tekken came out, and you could tell was the let's try to bleed everybody of all the money possible, with gems kind of thing. And hey, look, here's a color mode, and it starts off with only black and white. It's like, this is awesome. Like, you could tell that they were trying to do something crazy with that, and then that kind of messed it up. And then Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite 5 came out, was a disaster on launch. And then Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite came out, was a disaster on launch. Like, literally, it has nothing to do with Street Fighter 4. If Cross Tekken came out stronger, didn't have all the DLC on the disc already as the game came out, if Street Fighter 5 came out a season later and actually had the story mode and arcade modes and stuff like that already in there, if MVCI had a budget and didn't make Chun-Li's face look like, to be the, hey, look, here's MVCI's trailer, here's Dragon Ball's trailer at E3, none of that has anything to do with Street Fighter 4. None of it. So I think the answer is emphatic no. I don't think there's anything about Street Fighter 4's success that hurt the other franchise. It actually gave them the best opportunity to even exist. If Street Fighter 4 wasn't as successful, there wouldn't even be talk about Darkstalkers are dead or whatever, you know.
There may have been some personnel carryover that may have had negative impacts on launches and game decisions between Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Street Fighter 5.
Maybe.
Maybe. So I don't know that in a way that nobody can know about, Street Fighter 4's success may actually have had negative impacts.
Right. Okay.
It actually may have. But of course, in many, many other ways, it had a ton of positive impacts.
Right.
A ton of positive impacts. So, yeah, I mean, look, I would think it'd be cool to see other fighting games come out. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
You know, we've often talked for many years about the possibility of a Darkstalkers, and neither of us wants to see that kind of stuff happen. But if there's something new that would come out, look, the return of Akira, right? Maybe her game series just comes back. Could be. So I'm down for that sort of stuff. Why not? But I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think that SF4 by itself was successful in a way that would undermine other fighting games.
Right.
Street Fighter was always the flagship fighting game for Capcom.
Absolutely. A lot of people, I mean, it's different nowadays for a lot of people who are getting into fighting games. I mean, I made that tweet about Dan's background, you know, that Capcom made Dan as a way to kind of clap back at SNK for making a bunch of Street Fighter clones.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how much hate I got from that tweet from SNK fans who were just like, oh yeah, well, you know, Yuri was making, these are clones, you know, like literally I had SNK people coming out of the woodwork to yell at me about that. And I'm like, I'm not even saying anything bad about SNK. Yeah. I'm saying literally what happened. And dude, I can't even tell you how many people were coming after me for that tweet. And someone was just like, they're not clones. And I was like, MK was a clone. Killer Instinct was a clone. Virtua Fighter was a clone. Everything was a clone back then because a lot of people don't realize how big Street Fighter is. And that's just one of the things that I can't ever express to people. When Street Fighter 2 came out, Street Fighter 2 was bigger than anything out there. Like I said, even counting Mario, even counting Zelda, I think Street Fighter is the second biggest cultural impact on that gaming has ever had. Because everyone knew Mario and Zelda as that video game thing, but Street Fighter was just like, it became a culture, just like Pac-Man did. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, imagine if every store you went to the freaking 7-Eleven, and everybody there was doing Guile Magic Throw, and they were doing all of the crazy Redizzy combos and everything like that, because you couldn't play the game unless you knew that stuff. But then the problem was that everybody was playing it, so everybody did these things. Like, it's just, like, I can't explain how big of a culture, like, it single-handedly saved arcades for that period of time. Like, Street Fighter 2 literally saved arcades at least for another 10 years. If Street Fighter 2 had never come out, arcades would have died a lot faster. Like, that's how big Street Fighter 2 was. And a lot of people don't get that. So, Street Fighter 4 being successful is just a factor of I mean, L.I. Joe and I used to always talk about it. We were so hyped for Street Fighter 5. And both of us were like, man, if Capcom does this right, this will be the biggest thing ever. And it will catapult. And then it came out. And both Joe and I were like, well...
I remember that time.
Yeah,
yes,
we were
indeed.
like, well.
Yep, I agree with that. And SF4, its success was in part because of the game itself, but very, very significant part because it was called Street Fighter 4. Absolutely, and had those characters whose names happened to be Ryu and Chun-Li and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and again, you know, there are other games that have sold more than Street Fighter 2 and whatnot and everything like that. That's obviously because more people are playing games than ever, and now Street Fighter 2 is already, 25 years old already, and so whatever. If it,
It's almost 30 years old.
if it had that popularity right now, I mean, dude, like, it'd be ridiculous.
Yep.
Everybody, I mean, it would basically be, people would be talking about Street Fighter 2 like the Fortnite kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even explain to you how popular it was back then. It's not just because I was ensconced in it. Literally everyone I talked to knew what Street Fighter 2 was. You know, like that's the crazy part. To the point where every time you talk to somebody about Street Fighter, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do commentary for Street Fighter 5. And they're like, I remember that. They're up to 5? They got past 2? Like, they don't even know. You know?
Hey, do you want to answer the other ones here?
The other one is should online TOs try to reach casual viewers or focus on maintaining entrenched FGC fans? I'm just going to say that that is not a question that is answerable by what you feel like doing. The answer is they should go after entrenched FGC fans. They should go after casual fans, but the casual fans are not going to sub. They're not going to donate. They're not going to do any of these things like that, right? So,
well, so the question here is from somebody who was saying that they like to watch big majors and that gets them really hype, but that finding that same kind of excitement in online stuff is difficult. You know, you're not seeing people on a stage, you're not hearing the crowd. There's all this sorts of stuff. Even if you're not physically in the room, when you're watching for something big like that from home, you get into it maybe in a different way.
Right.
And is there a way to reach those casual viewers who are in that sense, right? They're just excited about seeing big tournaments. Can online tournaments recreate that? And if so, is it something that they should be pursuing, or should they be just pursuing the more sort of hardcore fighting game players and fans rather than like trying to seek out to more casual stuff?
I think that it's something that they can get to, but they can't get there without focusing on the hardcore people first. Because you can't reach the casual fans until you get to a point where your stream is watched by the hardcore people. You know? Like, it has to have that legitimacy, that kind of importance to it. And if you're not appealing to the hardcore fans are going to be the ones to be like, oh yeah, Combo Breaker stream, online tournament, oh yeah, like, they're running this thing amazing, like, this is legit. And then that'll spread to the casual people. There's no way to jump straight to the casual audience right now. I just don't think that that's possible, especially in a niche genre like the fighting game community. We are far too niche to be able to have that choice to make right now. We have to appeal to the hardcore people.
Okay, yeah. Yep, that makes sense to me. My favorite documentary based on a fighting game, I would actually say it might be this latest Killer Instinct one that Esteban did. I think that one's super good. The ones that jump out to me other than that are Bang the Machine and the Smash Doc. I think those are probably the top 3 for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just going to be Bang the Machine.
Yeah, makes sense.
That thing was just, I mean, it was more... Like, what's interesting about it to me was it was less about, like, here's this community that does this, and, you know, like, it's literally a slice of life. Like, it captured that era so well. It captured the Vice swagger perfectly. You know, it captured, you know, the Watson shit-talking perfectly kind of thing. You know what I mean? It was... and there's something very surreal about the way it is. Like, there's that scene where they first get into Japan, and, like, they've all never been to Japan before, and they're all just looking around being amazed by stuff. And there's this weird, cloudy, dreamlike quality to the way they directed it, and I really enjoyed that about Bang the Machine so much.
Totally. Very, very good. No doubt. All right, there's some other game community news to get to. Move on to that. Game time? All right, cool. Let's talk about it. So, in Mortal Kombat 11, there was a small patch. It's mostly just like fixing glitches and making brutalities more viable. But there are some bug fixes to specifically RoboCop Variation 1 and Variation 3 that make him more viable. So I was excited about that. That's pretty cool. It's just like glitches that they fix. But that's pretty cool. There's also a RoboCop announcer pack available, which I got, and it's pretty cool to hear Peter Weller say "finish him" and stuff like that.
Is it actually Peter Weller? Did they get Peter Weller?
They actually got him. Yeah, they really
That's so sick. Okay, Warner Brothers money, man. Jeez.
I know, right? Yeah.
Obviously, you can't get Arnie, but still, Peter Weller. Buckaroo Banzai isn't doing as much right now as Arnie is.
Yeah. Samurai Shodown. Gongsun Lee is now playable.
Yes. I've heard she's not particularly strong feeling right now. A lot of people are pretty... they think she's kind of towards the bottom end on things right now. So I haven't had a chance to mess with her myself. But that's the word that I've gotten. Like Warden, I've heard is considered kind of low, but some people consider him really strong. But Gongsun seems like she's pretty universally considered like C tier.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah. All right. Descriptive. Have you checked out the patch notes? Like, is there significant changes? Or?
A little bit. I mean, for some, like Ukyo can actually back throw into weapon flipping technique. Before, his weapon flipping technique was like you could activate it and then like go take a walk around the block and come back, and it hadn't hit the opponent yet. Somehow they made it work against back throws, so that's gonna buff Ukyo a lot. But other than that, I don't think there was anything like super significant change-wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some more community-ish news, but still like specifically for Capcom Street Fighter Scene. There's some big, obviously internal news.
Yeah.
With respect to sort of Capcom and Street Fighter V specifically, and that is that the Street Fighter League preseason has begun. For the Japanese side, there's a really good rundown of this that I just wanted to plug by Doc Fugu on Twitter, Fugu Tabetai. And I will put that in the chat. I'm going to try to put this in the YouTube as well. But like really nice breakdown of what's going on in that. They have had, last weekend they had some open tournaments, and then there's going to be like the next stage that's coming up in next weekend or pretty soon. So there's like this kind of qualifying process that has begun. Right. And in the US SFL, their preseason started actually this last Thursday. They're doing exhibition matches, which is awesome.
Yes.
So there was an exhibition match between Samurai versus Nephew and Alex Myers versus Commander Jesse. Those are cool, and they did it in a nice way. They had interviews with the players before and after. They, Steve and Jeremy were there doing commentary. It was really cool to see. Obviously, they're not physically there, right? They're all playing online and commentating from online, but it was definitely cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to say, though, also is that shout out to them for, tagging in Fugu as well. He's been doing a lot of cool stuff. He's a American individual who lives in Japan, so I'm sure he can help out with a lot of the, like, Majin and Giuna kind of situation. And, he's always been involved. He's always, every time we've gone to Japan for EVO Japan, I've always met up with him at the Hey Arcade and stuff like that. So, he's always been very involved in the scene. He's given me a lot of good information and stuff. So I'm really happy that they're tapping into Fugu as a resource in Japan.
Very nice. And I just wanted to plug again because I really like it. Their Fighting Words show that happens on Thursday evenings that F. Ward and Logan put together. They had a great interview with Kaba this past week. Of course, Kaba had won the Capcom Pro Tour Central America last weekend. So they had an interview with him, and he talked a lot in Spanish, but they had translations there, and all about like how he game planned for Mena, and like Mena usually beats him, but like he like found some stuff that he was going to bring in against Mena, and Mena wasn't ready for it. It was like a very illuminating kind of thing.
Save that stuff for nationals.
Right, he did, right? Yeah, I mean he qualified to Capcom Cup as a result. So I think that was really cool. Just really nice conversations that they have with people. It's really nice to get words from the players themselves in those kind of situations. But obviously that wasn't all that happened for sort of the internal Capcom side of things over this past week. More big news. They are doing something called Street Smarts, which is a free online seminar in which people can learn more about the professional side of esports. So they've done a couple so far. They've done fighting game fundamentals with Valle, and they've done how to like get more out of training mode, how to like get more out of like labbing with
Nice.
automatic, which is super cool. I think that's an awesome idea. Persia's involved with it as well, and you sort of sign up before it's going to happen, and you tune in. You know, they have a little thing. It's first come first serve. You know, not everybody gets to see, so there's a feel. I didn't do it, but I think that probably gives it a feeling of being a small seminar, which I think is the kind of vibe that they're going for. I think that's a super cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool too. So, I mean, I feel like the kind of shows that they're producing right now for all the Capcom Pro Tour and all the fighting game stuff is actually more akin to things that I would have liked to see for a long time. It actually seems really cool. Because like I said, that Fighting Words stuff and also the CPT pre-show stuff that they produce right now, that Logan's been producing a lot of and everything.
Yeah.
Like that's what we wanted to see. I mean, I don't think it's a shock that, you know, Logan gets to do a lot of the work, and so now we're seeing a lot of things that all of us have wanted to see, you know. So shout outs to them.
That's great.
Shout outs to the, you know, for finally giving the venue and the ability for guys like that to create the content that I think the fighting game players have wanted to see for a while.
Absolutely agree with you. Yeah, very nice. So while this, very cool new esports and community related stuff is going on, and I'm sure entirely unrelated news that has now begun finally, Yoshinori Ono has announced his resignation from Capcom. He's been there for a quarter century, quite a while. Did a lot of different things there, of course. Was producer of Street Fighter 4 and 5, and very big roles
Capcom Fighting Jam.
What's that?
Capcom Fighting Jam.
Fighting Jam for sure. Cross Tekken. He's definitely done a bunch of stuff there. And I think maybe more importantly was like an avatar for fans to like project goodwill on. So like he did a great job at that. All ribbing and stuff aside. He did do a good job at being the person that fans could associate with a game. And whether that's positive will or negative will, or whatever they sort of sent his way, he did a good job at being that avatar and showing up and doing the Shoryuken thing and talking to people in front of crowds. And I think that side of what he did was very positive. Is this thing on? Or
Yeah, it's on. What else here? I know a lot of people have been talking about, the new characters in Soul Calibur now, so people saying good things about Setsuka, so
that's good.
Very strong character. Yeah.
I look forward to the future.
Yes.
For Capcom and for Street Fighter.
Yep.
I look forward to the future.
Mm-hmm. I have increased optimism.
I think that's a good way to phrase it.
Oh man. Okay.
Well, there's a way in which that's true, good normals, but there's also a way in which it's super not true. But there's only so much we can talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, there's other community stuff. It's not great. In the Tekken side of things, there's a statement on Twitter from Rox Gaming that is about not getting paid for a big tournament, GamersCon True Gaming Invitational, last year. Now over a year ago, still have not been paid for it. They put a tweet out that were like, "Look, it's a lot of money. It is." Oh, it doesn't. I didn't write it down.
It's a ton of money. I mean,
it was
like enough money that, people thought that he, after winning it, you could live the life and just, be all nice and everything. So, but
Yeah.
he never got the money, unfortunately.
Yeah, that sucks. And it's an international kind of situation. So I don't know that there's a ton that's easy to do here. I mentioned this in the past, but I've occasionally tried to help players get money back from tournaments, and it's almost not worked. I think it worked one time. The other times it has not, because it's just hard to follow up. It's hard to.
And
Even domestically, even in the same country, it's hard to follow. It's hard. People move. People don't have money, and so maybe you get to the stage where it's like, hey, you owe money, and they're just like, I don't own a thing in the world, and what do you? There's not like a lot to do at that point. I don't know the situation here, but the fact that it is international, right there in Tekken, this tournament was in Saudi Arabia, that's going to make it tougher. So I don't know what can be done specifically, but I do hope that they get paid ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing about it too is that oftentimes a lot of these companies can kind of get away with this because they also know that the cost of chasing that money might actually outweigh what they get out of that money. Unless you could include legal fees in the settlement, something like, give me my $60,000 and all the money that I spent to get that money out of you guys.
Yeah, usually you would want in a settlement to have your attorney's fees taken care of, but that's rare to get in a settlement.
Right.
Unless it's a particularly gnarly situation, but I just don't know enough about the legal side of this or the law in Saudi Arabia or in Korea for that matter to be able to say anything about that stuff. But yeah, you would hope that they could get more out of that. People are saying that it's $100,000 as the prize pool, $60,000 for first place. That's a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where when you see a tournament offering that much and they're coming out of nowhere, it's just like, I just feel like you have to, like, there needs to be like some sort of like, here's the money, like in a suitcase, and like
Upfront,
you put it on the stage, and as soon as I win, I get to grab the suitcase and walk away with. I know that's obviously impossible because you're traveling internationally with that kind of money and stuff like that, but I don't know how to prevent this to keep from happening. That's all.
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's definitely tough to do preemptively. After the fact, you can say, okay, don't go to this event anymore.
Right.
But preemptively, it's tough. Sometimes when tournaments offer a lot of money, unexpectedly high amounts of money, sometimes they pay out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't, and it's hard to say. $100,000 is a lot of money to have up, right? Yeah. But only a few prize pots ever in FGC history have reached that. So that is a lot, and I certainly get why the players would spend a lot of time, which they said that they did, right? They said that they spent a lot of time training up, making the travel schedule, all that sort of stuff. Tremendous amount of work went into it. It makes sense because it's a lot of money. I hope that they get it. That's tough. That's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Pot needs to go into escrow. Yeah, well, that means that the money needs to be in there in the first place. And what Rock said in this tweet, in this statement, was actually that they were told that it wouldn't come for a year. That was the initial expectation, was that the payments could take a year. So that was, I don't know if they were told that like right away or if they were told that after the. I guess they said that was mentioned after the tournament. That sucks. That sucks. It definitely should be there beforehand.
Yeah.
Especially for an amount of money like that. But I don't know what happened in this instance behind the scenes or with the tournament organizer or where the money came from. That sucks. I hope that they iron it out, but it sounds like it's going to be a pretty tough slog. All right, then.
Because a year later, anything could happen. There's 1,000 excuses you could come with, and it's just, I don't know. Like, that's just, that would have been like the first red flag. Like, as soon as I heard something like that, I would just be done with it.
Well, in this tweet, it says, after the tournament, we constantly discuss with the host party on the payments of prize through email, and we retain the information that Saudi's payments could take over 1 year. So I think that's information that they didn't get until after the event.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
That sucks.
I mean, honestly, if you're going to work for a tournament, one of the first things that you got to ask, especially if they have a prize money, is, hey, sponsor our tournament. We have this prize money. You have to be like, okay, how quickly are you going to pay the players? Like, I just feel like that has to be a question asked. Like, someone said that they got a place on the mystery tournament at Combo Breaker, and they just wrote them a check, like, right there on the spot, right? Like, that's what has to happen. And so, if the
pretty rare.
Yeah, if the person actually says like, oh, well, we can't do this unless, and after maybe 3 months, then it's just like, no, I can't be your sponsor unless on contract you write down that you're going to pay the players, within a certain amount of time or something. I don't know. But there's just got to be a way that you can't associate yourself with an event that ends up doing this,
Like I said, it's hard preemptively because tournaments will say that they will give the players money at the time, or that they'll do it within 30 days, or that they'll do it within 60 days. Those are the most common periods of time. They say that. Usually they do, but sometimes they don't, and it's hard to know in advance which ones are the ones that won't.
I mean, honestly, this sounds like the plot to a Coen Brothers movie, right? I mean, it's just like, you got these guys going here like, I know, we'll be able to give away $100,000 in prize money if we take the entrance and then I invested in this crazy thing that's guaranteed to work. And then they'd be like, are you sure about this? Totally. And they do it. And on their way to transferring the money, like some car blows up and all of a sudden these people kidnap them and all of a sudden all this stuff happens and someone gets put through a leaf shredder, a wood cutter, chipper kind of thing. And then, that's what I mean, dude. It totally sounds like the plot to a Coen Brothers movie. I swear.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like, you just don't trust this kind of thing.
Hey, in similar news, Slayer hasn't been paid by Prince Panther in quite a while. We talked about Prince Panther in the past. This is a fellow who has been putting a bunch of money into the Mortal Kombat scene in a few ways. He had a team. He had people doing commentary that he paid. He did random sort of King of the Hills or spur of the moment tournaments, and he gave money to the players in those instances, sometimes quite a bit of money. And while there were a couple of instances before of people saying that they didn't get paid on time, or again in one case didn't get paid, in general he actually has paid out a lot of the money. But now it seems like that's over. And Slayer put out a tweet, or Slayer, long time one of the best players in the NRS scene, says that he is now owed $1,100, $550 from one of the events, $150 from another event, $400 from what was supposed to be salary. So, he's not saying that he's gonna like take him to court or whatever, but he's trying to move on, but he just wants everybody to know about the situation, which definitely sucks.
Right.
Definitely sucks. Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, it's not like he spent money. Well, I don't know, but I mean, I imagine that Slayer didn't like spend money to be part of this, that he was hoping to get reimbursed because we're all just stuck at home. But it definitely does suck. Yeah, look, I mean, fighting games have had this kind of stuff forever. Many other esports do too. Please don't think this is just a fighting game community thing. This is something that happens in many other esports as well. And by the way, like in business, which sucks, but it does happen. And although here are two examples of this happening like right now, it doesn't happen as often as it used to. So, and certainly from the legal perspective, I've been seeing way better contracts and better due diligence and just a significant improvement in how often players actually get paid over the course of the last decade. It hasn't been as fast of progress as I think I would like, but it definitely has been progress at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, we only hear about the FGC stuff because we're in the FGC.
Yeah.
But the amount of stuff that has been happening all over the place, like, there have been terrible sponsor teams and everything like that. I mean, what about all these other leagues from a long time ago that just came up and disappeared, And there have just been so many stories about this happening on esports. And again, it's because, the esports community, those who are kind of in the know in esports, how do you make esports bigger, right? By convincing everybody it's the next biggest thing, because then you get people to invest, and then You lose all this money. Like I said, when Activision bought out MLG, they had to spend like what, it was like 14 million in their debt or something. They had to
they covered debt.
Yeah, they had to cover like millions of dollars in debt. So, it's this is just esports. Like I said, the biggest problem with esports is that esports pretends that it's bigger than it is. That literally they're selling snake oil, and you can't have something grow properly without organic growth. And it's why I think the fighting game community is kind of fortunate that we've had a lot of organic growth, and that we haven't even been swept up in the wave of the main line of esports, because Combo Breaker, Evo, CEO, ECT, all these things are still just run by people who just like the genre and are doing it because they want to,
Yeah, again, it's not just esports. This is like how business works.
Yeah, this is the world.
Which sucks, but it seems like it's correct. Yeah, just wait until the $500 million that are hanging out in the Overwatch League and the CDL go belly up. That should be fun for all of us.
It's true,
Looking
Curly. It's true, Curly.
To that.
It's true, Curly. It's how you succeed in real sports as well.
Yeah, just in general.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But
enough of that.
Yeah, but again, one of the things that's really important, I always like to compare it to, for example, like the X Games kind of thing. X Games was a big deal. Everybody talked about X Games. It was the esports before esports. X Games. I mean, look at the name of it. It's the exact same damn thing, right? Take a word, put a letter in front of it, and all of a sudden, like, we're hip and cool. The X Games was the next big thing, and, and all you have to do is read Tony Hawk's Twitter to realize how well that's been going, for the people who got big during the X Games. So,
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Well, hey, you want to put this last little bit here up on the screen right here?
Yeah, I'm putting it up right now.
Okay, cool.
You're laughing. I haven't seen this yet, so now I'm...
You haven't seen it. You're about to be interested.
Okay.
This is a tier list posted up on Fudo's account.
On Fudo's account?
Yes. It's unclear to me because I don't speak Japanese. If he's the one who actually wrote it, or if instead it's the guys who he invited. But, whatever. There you go. It's a tier list. It is Inaba who made this? Okay.
Inaba, huh? Okay.
Was unclear to me on account of inability to read other stuff. The top tier, I can't quibble with very much. Right. Akuma, Urien, Seth, Colleen, why not?
Okay.
Why not? I would not disagree with that too much. Do you think that Balrog is one of the bottom 5 characters of the game?
Boxer.
Is Boxer a bottom 5 character? James, is Ibuki and Karen as good as Nash and Fang? Maybe worse depending on how they arrange this, but it's kind of hard to say. But are they as good as? Is Nash as good as Karen? James.
Like I said last time on Tokido's tier list, a lot of it is going to be affected by your own personal experience. Japan definitely has a different way of putting the tier list together. I just think that this continues to prove my opinion that there are no bottom tiers in this game and that the balance is super good. There is definitely a lot of very questionable decisions here. Karen even being in B tier is shocking to me. Ibuki being in B tier, but Japan is not rating Ibuki very well. As I had talked about, with having high top players talk about, is Fujimura out there just being like, this character's not good anymore? Like,
well, he's not maining her now.
Oh, he's using somebody else now, huh? Okay. Well, and so that means she's probably not winning as much anymore. And, you know, what's interesting about this is that I've been having to deal with this a lot in the Teppen scene recently, because we're talking about the colors and how the mindset is so different between certain ways certain fighting game players think. You know, the way that they're rating colors in Teppen, like, I'm like, purple is not good. And then people are like, well, there were like 2 championship purple players at this event and everything. And I was like, yeah, but it's a one specific deck and it's has to be constructed exactly that way, but the entire color doesn't matter. The purple was there, you know. But I'm like, that's not how I'm looking at this. It's I'm looking at from an overall utility kind of. So it's a very different kind of atmosphere, right? You either go by the actual results of what you see and that's it. And that might be where they're going with right now. Look, we already know Japan has barely ever had very many boxer players. Boxer's always been kind of criminally underrated in Japan tier lists. And maybe now that Fujimura is not playing Ibuki, they don't feel like they see her anymore. And so now they consider her weak. Because this has happened in 2 tier lists now, that Ibuki has been put in. Like, a lot of us still think Ibuki is really, really super strong. And twice now she's been thrown into the B tiers. It's just very weird. It's very, very weird.
Well, there's a lot to say about this tier list that I disagree with, so alright, just take it at that. It's an interesting tier list. Thanks for the discussion point.
Exactly. Like Rock Monster says in the chat, Dalsum is an A. Why is he an A? Because there's 3 amazing Dalsum players in Japan who are destroying everybody. And that's enough to put Dalsum into the A tier. I really feel like it has to do with actual results, as opposed to, you know, overall judgment, balance, potential kind of thing. You know, there is that mindset out there when you look at a tier list, you base it off of who's actually winning. And it's different. And again, yes, to address High Fight's question, I'm not saying that in any way that there's anything wrong with that. That is an absolutely 100% legit way to look at it. And that's kind of why I would look at a tier list like this and not be like, man, this tier list is whack. Because to me, the tier list makes sense when you think of it from that standpoint. And that's why it's hard for me to go in on tier lists, especially ones made in Japan where that mindset is definitely more prevalent. I don't look at these tier lists and go, what are they thinking? You know, I'm just like, well, clearly Balrog and Cody aren't winning any tournaments there, you know, or doing well, or nobody's playing them. And like I said, that's a perfectly legitimate way. And like I said, even on the Teppen scene, I've had to wrestle with this as well, because like my mindset is so different, and I have to learn to accept the way that a lot of other people approach how it is. So I don't think it's. I obviously don't agree with a chunk of it, but I get why perhaps it is the way it is. It's the way that I'm trying to say it. So.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. That's all I got for news. As far as stuff that has happened. This coming weekend is CPT Online NA West. Lots of good players who signed up for that. That's going to be a raft of killers. Check that out. That will be cool.
Yeah, and it will be one of the tournaments where we find out if we get, you know, obviously we're all happy to see Daigo in Capcom Cup. Can we get Punk in Capcom Cup? So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's part of what will be decided here.
Yep.
All right. Hey, I played the worst video game I played in a while.
I haven't had a chance to try it yet.
No?
No, but that's because when we were supposed to try it, the servers were down at the time. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that in the future, but yeah, Fall Guys is very bad, in my opinion. The controls are terrible. They're like purposely degraded. Like, wouldn't it be fun if you couldn't control your character very well? Mm-hmm. I think it's real bad. Real bad. I am not at all interested in it, and I don't even know what else to say. very surprised. Like when I turned it on and I was like, oh, everybody's talking this game up. There must be cool reasons for it. I was instantly like, this is literally what happened, right? Here's my process, right, playing this game. I signed onto it first time, and try it, and halfway through of this, me like running through this little stage, I actually just stopped playing, and I went over to Discord, to one of the Discords that I was in, and I was like, guys, I'm playing the worst game I've played in a long time right now. Just typing it out, and then I go back to like continuing to play, and I fell off, and I guess I died. And then I went back and I looked at Discord. And then I looked back at the screen, and all of a sudden it's like in what appears to be the next stage. So I'm like trying to control my little dude, and it's like not very responsive, but it wasn't responsive before either. So I'm like trying to move him on these little squares. And it took me about 10-15 seconds to realize that actually I had died and that I was spectating somebody else now. But the controls felt so bad to me in the first round that I played that when I actually wasn't even controlling my own character, I thought that I was, but that the game was that bad. That was really... And then I was like, well, I'm out of here. I just turned off the PlayStation. Literally left.
I mean, look, clearly the game is designed that way. It's Mario Party, right? It's the whole I like you, here's 5 stars, kind of thing, and it's supposed to be that way. I mean, it was basically me crying about blue shells in Mario Kart in the when I used to play with my coworkers from my last job. I would always complain about how dumb blue shells were as a mechanic, and they were all like, it's a party game. It's supposed to be fun. Of course, I was mad most of the time because I was always in first place. And so I would get hit by all the blue shells, and that made me super mad until I learned how to start avoiding them. So then things got fun. So, oh, man. But again, that's... The game is designed for that purpose, right? And for people who enjoy and value skill and trying to get to a point where they can play a game well, obviously it's not going to appeal to us, but I think it definitely... I mean, I watch it, and, you'll see people laughing while they play and all these things like that, and, cracking up about it. And honestly, I do feel like sometimes that a lot of video games have forgotten about that aspect of video games, of how just to make people crack up and have fun. So I'm not opposed to playing it with friends, because we were going to do this Fall Guys competition sort of thing for a sort of tournament put on by Tenno, and that ended up not working out because the game's servers were exploded for a while. I'm down to do that in the future, for sure, because I think it would be fun to just like hang out with friends, play a game, right? It's not the game that matters to me. If I were to go online and try to play it myself, I think I'd have a bad time. But if I were just like there with friends and we're like being jerks to each other and trying to race, well, I mean, I can imagine that being fun. And I can't.
But not because of the game. I think it's not the game. It's I have a good time hanging out with my friends. Maybe we should just like play other games that we like.
I'm so mad that somebody in the chat is trying to insinuate that I stopped to avoid the blue shells so that someone who drives past me gets hit by it. Clearly, you have not played Mario Kart DS, where it is very possible to just completely avoid a blue shell. I mean, look, I know a lot of people hated Resident Evil 5, but I played that with my friend online, and that was a blast. It was just so much fun because we kept getting into like stupid situations and stupid things kept happening, and we would just crack up. And honestly, that's what it really is. Let's put it this way. That like, dude, I did the big Soul Calibur stream yesterday. I did this big Soul Calibur where a bunch of people came and played, and they showed me a specific mode in Soul Calibur. And dude, like, I can't tell you how badly I was dying just of laughter. And it was just like the most entertaining goddamn thing. And I was just like, God, more fighting games need this. They need stuff like this. And it's so funny. It's a Tonkinese. It's a Tonkinese cat. Half Siamese, half Burmese, which makes it Tonkinese. That's what you are.
That makes sense.
That's what you are, right? Right, Nathan? I did make top 8 in Mario Kart, yep. I definitely did. and I was
From the Gulf.
half as good as I was that I got at the game at the time. So I definitely improved way better.
Yo, check out the cool art that Tagman Inc. did.
Is that art, or is that just a list of the placements and stuff like that? Are you baiting me? Are you trolling me?
Am I baiting you? No. Get out of here. What a thing to insinuate, first of all.
Oh, dang. Where did this come from? That's awesome.
Awesome.
It is awesome. And it's definitely me with all of my hair.
Yeah.
That is definitely current me.
For sure. And you're balancing the cats while you're fighting like Oro, I think is what's happening there. Alright, hey, anything else to talk about?
Outside of the fact that my cat must be super hungry right now. Because he's going in like super cuddly mode.
Ooh, there you go.
Hi. Oh yeah, the Salt Mine Finals is coming up this weekend as well. So
Okay, cool.
The current season finals. Finals. So
cool.
I'm supposed to help out with that, but I'm not sure if I can anymore. So we'll see what happens. But that is definitely happening this weekend as well. So you definitely want to check that out. A lot of strong players out there again from the EU scene, and it should be a lot of fun. Whoa,
cool, man.
Careful. Hi.
Hey, thanks for the sub, Eddie MC. Alright, you good to go?
Yep, good to go. And this cat...
Alright, thanks for hanging out again, everybody. Hope you all have a good Tuesday night or Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon even, wherever it is for you.
Alright, cool. And I need to get myself a stream deck. It would definitely make doing a lot of this stuff easier.
Yeah.
I don't need to make one of the cats a turtle. I've got a turtle over here. So I already got the turtle. Oops, you can't see it. There you go.
Alright, everybody. Have a good one. Birded.